There we go. Somehow managed to break my damn razor this morning. I don't know how, but the blade portion just rattles around, and I think I put the spring back in right, but it now is jammed. So I'm thinking I have this spring in wrong. So I gotta find my spare one and hope to use the same head so I can compare them and see what's different. Yay! Spent half the morning trying to fix the internet. The internet went down last night, and I just like, screw it, went to bed. Figured by morning it'd be up. Nope, wasn't up. the Hey Joe. Turns out there was a local outage, and Comcast fixed it about 10 o'clock this morning. I was pulling spare modems out, plugging them in, trying to reset them, and I was outside looking at the cable, running to the pole, seeing if it got chewed again, and nope, it was just an outage. I finally remembered to log into the website, and it told me there was an outage. Yeah. An outage has been detected. Like, now you tell me. Well, one good thing to come out of all that crap, though, was that I was able to find out that there's an Xfinity Wi-Fi connection that's within range of my house. It's probably at the community center. That's a half a mile away. I don't know how. Not only are they able to transmit to me from that distance, but I'm able to transmit back, and it works. So I got all the phones connected to the Wi-Fi. I got my TV connected to Wi-Fi, and I'm going to connect her TV and phone later on to the Wi-Fi, so that I found out that any data that we transfer over the Xfinity Wi-Fi network doesn't count against our monthly cap. So if our televisions and phones are connected to the Xfinity Wi-Fi, then it won't count against our 1.25 terabyte limit per month at home here. Yeah, more downloading. So I guess something good came out of it. See if I was up at 6 o'clock this morning trying to fix it, just to find out there's nothing I can do. It's black. Be careful, watch the battery. Oh, yuck. Big snot ball came up. That's so disgusting feeling in your mouth. Ooh, it's so slimy. And any tissues here? No, I don't. But I have every printer that's operational in the house cranking out rocket mounts, because I realized that I have no way of making these rockets stand up. I realized that trying to make a rocket stand up like this, you might as well be asking for that to knock over, and then you have a whole table of them falling over. That would not work well. So I've been printing these. So I got big ones for the taller, heavier rockets. I got a few iterations I've been going through. So I started off with this, and of course, you know, I'm printing PETG with a cold bed. Yeah, it didn't like that very much. It got nice and warpy. So I found out what's really necessary is to have a circular shape. The circular shape seems to be the magic sauce to why the cold printing is working. So I tried adding this ring. That wasn't enough because these still warped out. Oh, thank you.
That it?
Yep. Come on. I'm going to start smashing stuff again. If it keeps falling on me like that. Okay, so this one's totally different. Yeah, it's got a single screw holding that down, and the spring actually mounts to the back of this. Better design, in my opinion. It doesn't look like I'm missing anything. So I think I just have this spring thing mounted incorrectly. How do I reposition it? I think it's just backwards, so it's pressing too hard on the prop shaft. But how do I move that? There we go. So let's turn this way. But now it doesn't press. If I do that, can't see for shit. Alright, nothing is broken. There's nothing missing. Motor spins. So it's just a matter of figuring out which way the spring goes. Which way does it go on this one? Kind of goes that way. But it's a different design. Problem is that part back there is keeping it from turning. I think this has to go further back. I think that has to go all the way down. So it's sitting against the round part of the shaft and not against the oscillating part of the shaft. Oh, almost had it. But I think it has to go down there like that. But it doesn't want to stay down there. And if it doesn't stay, it's not going to work. Oh, that's not in there. Duh. Okay. It seems to jam up. It's got enough charge. So you can see the little square part of the spring there is sitting against the oscillating portion of the shaft. And I think it has to sit on the round part of the shaft. Because now, in order for the motor to turn, it's got to push the spring back, which it's not strong enough to do. So either it somehow has to be pushed back, or I'm missing a piece. You're going to need a fork to be able to push that and back and down. There we go, that's in. Hmm. You know what might help is if I have the oscillating portion rotated around 180 degrees before I insert this, so that the spring is, and it won't let me. Okay. You son of a bitch. Now you're just pissing me off. Okay. And it rotated around again. Hmm. But then again, if that was made to push against the brass wheel, I would see a groove where that metal was touching. So I'm installing something wrong. Oh, no, that can't be right. I don't. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, never mind. Piece of plastic. Yeah, that's most likely a hook. So this is broken. Okay. So it looks like this portion of the spring is supposed to be bent backwards and hooked onto the frame itself, so that only these two springs are sticking out and nothing is touching the shaft. And it looks like that portion of the razor is plastic. So right back there, you can see that lighter colored area. There it is. See that lighter colored area right in the middle? That's a piece of plastic that was most likely a hook for this to latch onto. And that is broken now, which means this is hosed. The only way I could fix this is to replace this whole thing. If I had to guess, I'd say this piece of plastic here would need to be replaced somehow, if it even is replaceable. Well, that's an annoying design flaw. At least this one, the oscillating head is plastic, but the spring mount is all metal. Yeah, I'm firmly staying out of that. Ow. Why is that hurting so much? No, this normally doesn't hurt at all. Something to do with this design. The one set of blades is sticking out a little bit too far. They're not supposed to be sticking out that far. So doing it on a screen doesn't quite work the same way because my motions are backwards compared to what I expect them to be. This probably also needs to be lubed. I'll have to vacuum up here. I got a lot of hair now. So yeah, that's totally broken, which sucks. That sucks that this entire hunk of metal is now useless because of one little itty bitty piece of plastic right there. That's just a bad design. I mean, it wasn't even dropped. I didn't even pick it up off the floor or anything. I just picked it up off the counter and tried to use it. Although this shaves closer. That one doesn't shave as well. This does a better job. But better job doesn't matter if 1 year of usage is enough to break it. And I was concerned about the fact that I can't replace the battery. What's the point if you can't replace that? You know, this part's replaceable. This part's replaceable. But I don't think that part there is replaceable. And I certainly can't 3D print a replacement for that. There's no way it'll hold up to that kind of stress. That's a high stress connection. Okay. So that part there is removable. That looks like it's pressed in. So that might actually be replaceable. It looks like that piece right there is pressed into place. You can see it's got the two holes there that it sits in. And I'm guessing there's two more holes in the... Oh, there it is. That is removable. Yeah, it just came out of the holes. Yeah, if I remove this from the base of the unit here, which I might be able to do with this. Yep. Couldn't find a screwdriver and didn't feel like looking for one. So I was like, screw it. Literally. Hey, Sean, how are you doing? Okay. There we go. Hey, John, how are you doing today? Okay. All right, now this should pop out. Probably have to bend it a little bit to get it out. There it goes. All right, so it is serviceable. If I can get the company to send me a replacement piece for this. So that right there is the bad piece. That should be made of metal. There's no excuse for that. Because that little broken spot there. This is probably not going to autofocus. Actually, what am I doing? I have this. Oh yeah, I've seen many of that. I really would like to try to build one of those. Oh man, razor burn. Well, I think it's starting to get more common for people to do it. The thing is, how do you find those big bottles? You know, the big 3 liter plus bottles, so you can actually get a usable amount of filament. Oh man, that thing really tore me up. That's a poorly made razor. Unless it just needs to be lubricated, oiled. Ouch. Spot. There we go. So there is the problem right there. Damn it, that really hurts. That thing really chewed me up. So that right there is the problem. See that rough, see that striated area right there? Well, that is where... Did I already misplace it? There it is. That's where that went. And you can see the little channel in the top of it right there. Well, that little channel is what holds the spring. That little channel holds that portion of the spring right there, applies tension to the blade to keep it in place, because the blade is just held in place by tension, by the spring. And, well, when that little piece broke off, the blade started rattling because there was nothing holding the blade anymore in place properly. Yeah. So this probably had to go in this way. And this attachment here pulling on this pushed these two into these channels on here, holding the blade. So this would sit here like that. This would sit in here like this. Like that. This would sit here like this, with these two sitting in these channels like that, sort of. Like that. And then what would apply tension to this is that portion being held back by this. And this whole thing is held together by that little piece of plastic right there. I'm not impressed. That's a piss poor design. At least this one here That looks particularly disgusting up close. So this one here, you can at least see that you can see it's the same basic design. Hey, Hack Monkey. Yeah, I think it's going to be fun. So you can see there's the spring holding this plastic head in place. But at least this one here, the spring is held on by metal. You can see there's a cavity right there that the bottom of the spring jacks into. And that's what applies the tension to hold this head, which is this piece here, into this piece here, which is this piece here. That's what keeps those two blade heads together. So that's actually probably sensible to make that plastic. It kind of makes sense. It looks like it works. Although I wonder what holds it in. Is it screwed in or is it pressed in? I don't see any screw holes. I see two holes there, so I'm hoping it's screwed in from this side. You see it's like a sandwich. It might just be pressed in. Like it might be pushed in from one side to the other. Like there might be a hole there, I don't know. I'm certainly not going to take it apart with no spare. So I'll contact this company, see if they'll send me a new head. Because this thing hurts like hell. I look what it did to my neck. Man, it really tore me up good. It's not hurting my skin. I wonder why it hurt my face so much. I'll have to work on that. So, a Thingiverse link. Yeah, me too. Murph 2019. Yeah, I saw those containers. Sadly, there are no commercial usage, so I can't I can't use them, to sell. I'm trying to find nice stuff like that locally to do. I found a whole bunch of nice weaving ones that allow commercial usage. So I'm going to try to do some of that, see if I can sell it locally. Use wood PLA. I got to find some American-made PLA because that's important to a lot of people around here. So yeah, that's annoying. So now that thing is hosed. It's serviceable. It's got screws everywhere. It's got mostly metal parts and stuff like that, but the most critical portion of the entire device, what actually holds the spring into place, is that little goddamn piece of plastic right there. And that takes what is otherwise a halfway decent design and makes it garbage. Do they have wood PLA, like actual wood inside PLA? And then SolidWorks said they're going to give out a prize to anybody who brings their new calibration cube that they had designed. So I was like, okay, I'm going to bring an entire pocket full of itty bitty ones. I got to clean up that print a little bit because that overhang looks like garbage. But yeah, I made a itty bitty one I'm test printing on the 0.2 millimeter nozzle. Well, plus it looks like it's relatively simple. Although I worry about getting the tolerances right for consistency. But if you just use it for mechanical parts, it's no big deal. I got the T-box printed. It actually came out really nice. This is using Filamentum Vertical Gray and Rapunzel Silver. And it's a roll top. I just have to print the little plate in 2 colors. But that was, I like that. That's surprisingly nice. It just came out real clean. And then what I have all the printers printing right now is printing these rocket stands so that I can actually stand my rockets up. So the idea is I can take a rocket, stick this in the bottom of it, and now I have a stand to stand the rocket up. So they'll still fall over, but they'll be less likely to fall over with a nice big footprint holding them up like that. I'll put a little tape around that to give it a snug fit. But yeah, so I fabbed up a few of those. So I can actually, I still have to figure out how I'm going to stand up the monsters. I got 2 12-foot rockets I got to stand up. Well, one's going to be like 10 foot, one's going to be like 12 foot. Really? You gotta mess with me every step of the way? Always? So I got 2 bigger ones. So these are the 2 PETG and PLA on a cold bed. Yeah, the PETG wanted to warp so badly. It actually did warp a little bit on that one right there. You can see it right there. It warped a little bit. It actually pulled the sticker off the flex plate. It actually defeated the 3M adhesive and pulled the sticker right off the flex plate. Wow. And the PLA also warped the flex plate. Like it didn't release, it didn't pull off the flex plate, but it warped it. And so these are the biggest ones. I have to make a version of this. Well, that's what happens when you try to print on a cold bed. the force is strong with this one. Holy crap. That was amazing. So I still have to make one with a 5-inch cylinder. And even though it's not going to be really big enough to keep them from tipping over. What I probably need to do is to print a block like this that I could then stick broom handles in. And use broom handles as the legs to keep the big rocket. This is great for all the 4-foot rockets, but the the 6 or 7 pound rocket, that's going to be a little harder. For the smaller ones, yeah, I could do that. You could just take a U-peg and put it over right here between this one and this one here. This way it's trapped and can't go anywhere. So you just put a U-peg over 2 or 3 of these to hold that into the grass. So that'll work for at the field. But I'm talking about at Murph, at RMRRF. So I could put these on the table without the rockets falling over and bunking somebody in the head. So those are my biggest ones. To go bigger, I'd have to use a Chiron. Oh. Oh, really? Is it that is the adhesive actually different? Or the adhesive just doesn't stick as well? That's what I call it, RMRRF. Just seemed like the right way to say it. So I got those to print pretty flat. So those will hold up some rockets. And I could still use these for the shorter rockets. Where did that rocket go? Oh, there it is. So this one, for example, this is a short rocket. So I can use the little warpy buddy here. And that will fit in there like that. And so now that has a stand to hold it up. Well, I'm probably not allowed to sell anything commercially. I'm guessing you'd have to be an exhibitor to do that. But I'm hoping they'll let us sell like trinkets. Although I don't have too many to do. I bet you could flat pack them. They're already flat. But yeah, that, and I found that that's why the parts don't fit as well on this rocket. I don't know how. I use stock parts. Maybe I over extruded too much, but for some reason, this rocket is a really tight fit, and I don't know why. Like the one motor mount won't even go in. Like that's a really tight fit. So I must have done something in the slicer to make the settings for this wrong or something. Flatter, pull them out like them swords. What? Well, no, I just correct the part. Well, for this, I would just I'll just scale down one of the motor mounts slightly because I don't want to reprint this because this is nice Filamentum Rapunzel silver and Icelandic blue. So that's expensive. This is like $20 worth of filament right here. So I really don't want to reprint this, but I'll just redesign the motor mount to make it a little bit smaller. Oh, make the rocket collapsible. Oh, I don't have to. Because just like I did with the Pringles cans, these all thread together. So these can all be taken apart to their constituent components, like this. I made adapters for the Pringles cans so that they can be MRS. MRS is my modular rocket systems, and I designed these to all be threadable. So these Pringles cans can all thread together, like this. Well, my rockets do exactly the same thing. Where is it? Here it is. So this rocket, this all comes apart into pieces this big. That comes out. That comes out. This is just friction fitted in. So this all comes off apart to its constituent components. And then you just thread it together when you're ready to fly. Thread that in. Thread that in. Then you get your motor mount. And you thread your motor mount in. So the whole thing all threads together. So that's that half. And then the other half is right here. Oh, this needs a nose cone. I never finished printing a nose cone for this. So I still need to, oh, where is the nose cone? Yeah, I never printed a nose cone for this. Okay, I gotta print a nose cone for this. And then this is 4 pieces. So this can all come apart. This is the coupler that interfaces the threaded portion of the rocket with the non-threaded portion of the rocket. It allows them to just insert together like that. And so there you go. Now you have your entire, 5-foot long rocket, and you could break it down into individual parts. Thank you, Ben. So yeah, that's right from the get-go. These rockets, almost all of these rockets are modular. You can take them apart to components that'll fit in a plastic bag, and then screw it all together, and you have yourself a big rocket. How else do you think I'm going to get a 12-foot rocket to armor? It's all going to come apart. Each part is 400 millimeters long, and I just take it apart, toss it in the car, and when I get there, I just thread them all together. Well, to be fair, all rockets are quite phallic by nature of how rockets are made. The problem with the origin is the tip. That tip's egregious. My highest flight is right around 9,500 feet. That was a throwaway rocket. My highest non-throwaway flight was about 6,000 feet. Hey, red light. So I've been getting all this ready. Figure out what I'm going to bring and how it all goes together. So you can see here. So this is the Red Nova, for example. I can actually fit that on screen. So the nose cone is a coupler that goes together with the nose cone. So these two parts mate together. So that's your nose cone. And then you have body segment. And then this is another body segment. And then this is another body segment. And then this is the motor mount. So this is all modular. It all threads together. So that's a, I think that's a 24. Either 24, it might be a 29. Yeah, that's 29. So that's a 29 millimeter motor. I can swap it out for a 24 or an 18 millimeter motor mount, or a 2-engine 18 millimeter cluster. And then there's supposed to be a paper tube on here. I don't have it handy to show, but I don't have any paper tubes really. So this threads into here like this, and then this part threads onto here like that. Oh, that's off by 180. Oh, it's still off, so it's going to have to go like that. This part is off by 90 degrees, and then this part threads on, and then this part just fits in, and there you go. The entire rocket is modular. You can take it apart, replace it, swap it, put it together, change motor mounts, repair parts, whatever you need to do. But all my rockets are designed that way so they can be put together. I'm Groot. Cool. PC is tough if you can print it hot enough. It just comes right apart if you don't print it hot enough. So you gotta print it hot enough, slow and hot. But and these are all printed in vase mode, of course. So this is actually pretty light. It's not that heavy. How heavy is this? This is actually one of the heavier ones because it's got big fins. Yeah, keep pissing me off. See what I do to you. I'm gonna tear you to pieces. Ah. What's low mean? What the hell does low mean? Low battery? Okay. 86 grams. That's not that bad. So 86 grams for that model there. So I don't want to reprint this, even though it's off 90 degrees, because I don't have much more of this filament left. It's precious. So once I run out of this filament, that's it. It's a beautiful filament from Zyro. Not Zyro. Yeah, I think it was Zyro. So that's a pretty model. I'm looking forward to flying that. I'm hoping that this is balanced enough to fly, but I have a feeling I'm going to have to make this tube section a little bit longer and probably add a little bit of nose weight, because these fins here are going to really push that center of pressure forward. If it didn't have these fins, this would absolutely be stable. But with those fins on there, yeah, I think it's going to need a little bit of clay in the nose to keep this stable. So we'll see. I have somebody who's going to test fly that for me. That's why rockets tend to be long. You know, that's why our model rockets tend to be really long, because the longer the rocket is, the more the center of pressure gets pushed backwards, and the center of gravity needs to be in front of the center of pressure. Otherwise, bad things happen. You get to watch skywriting. And then maybe a land shark, and then you yell, "Run!" Go from there. But the idea is, the only non-printed part you would need is a little piece of paper tube. This is not going to fit anything here, but the idea would be that little piece of paper tube would go in. Actually, that's almost a right fit. Oh, that almost fits. But so you would just have you'd have a small piece of paper tube about that big in this segment here, and that's where you would glue that to this, and that's what your motor would attach to, and that would also provide that little bit of heat insulation between the ejection charge and the plastic, so it should be okay. Well, my problem is I can't afford to buy any filament. I literally have no money, like none. I just got a bunch of lunch meat and stuff like that I'm bringing with me to because I have a little electric cooler keep in the car for my meals because I can't afford to spend any money. You know, financially speaking, I shouldn't be going on this trip, but I think financially speaking, I need to. I need to hand out some business cards and get some attention to revitalize my channel since I kind of killed it over COVID. So especially considering that I have, you know, 500 rolls of filament, 600 rolls of filament sitting out in the bus, you know, the idea of buying filament is kind of silly. If you say, well, where are you getting all the plastic? I was like, dude, you have no idea how much plastic I have. I could, oh man, I could burn a couple of rolls a month for the rest of my life and not use up all that plastic. In fact, I probably never will. I'll probably never use up all that plastic in my lifetime. Unless I started printing a ridiculous number of really large objects with the 1.2 millimeter nozzle. I don't think I could use up all that filament in my entire life. The only problem with having that much filament is that most of it's PLA. Oh man, that really messed me up, that razor. Ouch. Is the only problem is most of it's generic colors. There's not a whole lot of exotic colors. Like, you know, this is my last roll of Vertigo Gray. Once I use that up, that's it. No more Vertigo Gray. And I can't afford to buy more. And I do have some PETG, a little bit of ABS and ASA, but most of it's PLA. Oh. Well, you can go ahead and join back up. I like my victims happy. So not only did COVID screw things up, and you know I screwed things up, but Amazon cut back on their commission for affiliates. So I went from making, you know, $800 a month on Amazon to $200 a month on Amazon in 1 month. That hurt. Oh boy, did that hurt. Because that was making the difference. The $800 a month from Amazon plus the, you know, the 2 something, almost 3 from Patreon was enough. You know, I was doing okay. And then when Amazon said, nope, we're cutting off the faucet, I was like, fuck. Hey, TK. Yeah, that sucked hardcore. But what are you gonna do? It's weird sometimes the things I see pop up, like just like, so I got $6.40. Somebody bought an iPad. Like, yay! Just don't return it. But oh, I got all the memory cards in finally, and so far they all work. The economy's not tanking. Amazon is doing better than they ever have. Check that out. Those are all the, oops, no. Those are all the little, really? There we go. Those are all the little decorative cards that I got from Amazon. Not Amazon, AliExpress. I paid $1.99 for each of those cards. Well, I think the Homer, the Bart Simpson one, I think that was $2.99. And well, the core problem we have today is massive price gouging. I mean, we're talking across the board. We're talking price gouging to the tune of, the smallest gouge I've seen is a 17% price increase, and the biggest gouges I've seen is 240% price increases. So even with record high, 7 or 8% inflation, explain to me that kind of no, the economy is not tanking. These companies are tanking the economy. Okay, those words are different. Okay, the economy tanking is shit happens. Now we have to react and deal with it. These companies are intentionally tanking the economy. They're trying to force a recession because they're pissed off and they're taking it out on us and they're not having it anymore. So they're saying, fuck it, we're going to burn this economy down to the ground. They're doing it on purpose. This is intentional. This is not a natural recession. That's why you for the last year and a half you heard people screaming. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate that. You people screaming, oh, the Republicans are doing this and the Democrats are doing this and blah blah blah, and people say it's a recession. Oh, they're trying to redefine what recession is. No, they're not. It's not a recession. A recession is inflation and high unemployment. All right. We have inflation, but we don't have high unemployment. We have low unemployment. It's basically zero for all intents and purposes. There's always going to be a certain percentage of unemployed, mental illness, etc., handicapped, medical issues. There's always going to be a certain number of unemployed. Now, people say, well, it's a recession. We're, two quarters of reduced GDP. That's not what a recession is. A recession is two reduced quarters of GDP as well as high unemployment. We don't have the high unemployment, so why do we have the reduced GDP? It might be recession-like, but it's not your classical recession. It's not the same as the recessions we've had over the last 40, 50 years. It's something different. There's a different reason. There's a different mechanic causing this. And it's coming from the corporations. They're trying to force a recession. After the pandemic, enough people died and or removed themselves from the workforce that we had an actual legitimate labor shortage. Well, that's because the companies are firing them. They're trying to force a recession. So you got to jack up the unemployment to do that. And now, of course, they're trying to force a recession, so they know economic times are going to be hard because they're causing it. So they have to start cutting expenses now so that they can float through it. Exactly. They have no intentions of lowering prices. And they're pissed off that people are, for the first time in 50 years, labor has an advantage because we have a massive labor shortage in this country. And the reason labor has that advantage is because there are now more jobs than there are people. As long as there are more jobs than people, people have some say. It's no longer a pure slavery environment. Now the slaves can actually fight back a little bit. They can actually say, well, no, I'm not going to take that $7.25 job. I'm going to take that $12 job, even though the $12 job is still half what it should be. People actually have a say now. And more importantly, because wages are being driven up, people don't have to work as many multiple jobs or as many multiple hours, because that's the real killer of wages. Is when people are forced to work multiple jobs, well, now they're taking a job that someone else could have. But because of the labor shortage driving up wages, people don't need to work multiple jobs as much anymore. The people in the middle, people at the bottom are still screwed. But the people in the middle don't have to work as many multiple jobs anymore. And the corporations, they tried to solve that with propaganda. People aren't lazy. Give me a break. People are more productive and working harder now than they did 50 years ago. No, I don't have to explain a goddamn thing, Ben. Because you know something? If you pull out your goddamn knife and stab yourself in the shoulder with it on purpose, you don't get to complain to me about the knife damage to your shoulder because you did it yourself. You can't complain about self-inflicted injuries. All right? The banking problem is self-inflicted. They did it on purpose. So no, I don't have to explain a damn thing. They have to explain it because they're the ones who created the problem. This isn't a problem they got stuck holding the bag for. They didn't get stuck holding the bag. No, they created this problem by artificially inflating real estate prices. Houses should cost a third what they cost now. Houses should cost a third of what they cost right now. House pricing is overinflated by 300%. Don't believe me? Go look up house prices from 50 or 60 years ago. And now adjust that for inflation, and also don't forget to adjust it for house size because houses are a lot bigger. So convert that house price in 1950 or 60 to dollar per square foot, and now adjust that for inflation and square foot to today, and you're going to see house prices are overinflated by 300%. The banks did that. Do you know where 97% of inflationary force comes from? You have inflation. And okay, well, you have inflation and then you have price gouging. But let's for the moment, let's call it all inflation. Do you know where 97% of inflationary force comes from? Here, pro tip for you. Not the government. The government is 3% of inflation. 97% of inflationary force comes from banks and corporations, the bulk of which is real estate, mortgages. Banks literally fabricating money into existence out of thin air and then charging 100, 200, 300% interest on that money. Oh yeah, you're sure you got an 8.7% interest loan. No, you didn't. You got an 8.7% APR loan. Now convert that to actual interest, meaning what you're actually going to pay after 30 years. Yeah, it's like 200 to 300%. And you wonder where inflation's coming from. There you go. You took a $200,000 house and you inflated it to $400,000 with interest. There's your inflation. That has nothing to do with Ukraine. Go look at the history. Ukraine was minor in that. Although the Ukraine debacle is affecting Europe far more than it affects the US. Because you guys get most of your natural gas and oil from Russia, don't you? I believe you get a large amount of your energy from Russia. So the Ukraine BS is going to be a lot more damaging to Europeans than it is to America. I love when people say, well, OPEC's cutting production, and that's going to screw us over. I was like, it's going to screw us over because we choose to allow it to screw us over. Do you know who the largest exporter of oil is on the planet? The United States. we got more oil than anybody except maybe China. Who knows how much they're hiding. We got more oil than pretty much anybody else. The problem is we don't use our oil domestically. We sell our oil because it's more profitable for us to sell our oil and then import the cheaper oil and refine that. Yeah, but it's coming from Russia, and now we're having embargoes and sanctions against Russia. Even Europe is slitting their own throat with sanctions against Russia when that's where they get their energy from. What do you think Russia's going to do? They're just going to sit down and take it? No, they're going to ream you up the ass for your energy. The Putin's a nut job. He's a wacko. I can't believe one of his generals hasn't knocked him off yet. Seriously, I expected within a year one of his own people would take him out because he's nuts. But now, of course, there is secondary effects to a lot of this. You have some companies that are raising their prices and they're not price gouging, but it's the result of price gouging. When your supplier price gouges you, you have to raise your prices in response. Red light. Okay, I'm serious. I know you're an intelligent guy, okay? So I'm saying this in jest, but your reply is mentally retarded. Unemployment is virtually non-existent. So what the fuck are you talking about? Nobody wants everything for free. They want what they're fucking owed. And if you're working for an employer, you're fucking owed a living wage. Do you know 50% of the entire US doesn't make anything close to a living wage? A living wage is $24 an hour. 50% of the country makes less than $17 an hour. Because that's how they're making all their money. That's how they're robbing everybody. All the prices are going up at the rate of inflation except wages. Wages are... Don't give me bullshit. In 1968, fucking minimum wage was $14 an hour and median per capita income was $66,000 a year. Today, minimum wage is under $6 an hour and median per capita income is less than $38,000 a year. There's your fucking problem. That's your problem right there. They've lowered minimum wage by 50% and they've lowered median per capita income by almost 50%. There's your problem. Food prices are not out of control. They might be out of control compared to last year. No, yeah, it's life. Get over it. And now we're going to fucking eat them. They're fighting for their lives. That's why they're forcing a recession. That's why they're cutting tens of thousands of jobs. Because they know if they cut jobs and increase the ratio of people to jobs, that they can force people to fight off those jobs. Yeah, you can live off $40,000 a year, and the people at 60% make $40,000 a year. What part of median per capita income is less than $38,000 a year? That means 80 million people are making less than $38,000 a year. If you made the basement $40,000, we'd be okay. It's not. 90 million people make less than $40,000 a year. Only the guy at the 55-60% mark is making $40,000 a year. Everybody below him is making less. A lot less. And so they're we trash the job market, the labor market, because 1.5 million people died, which is basically chicken scratch. 3 or 4 million people went self-employed and didn't come back to the workforce. Again, chicken scratch. The real killer was before the PPP was announced, early retirements were offered. You shouldn't have to work 2 jobs, red light. You shouldn't fucking have to work 2 jobs. If you can't survive off of 1 full-time job, you're a fucking slave. Hi, baby. That's why I don't worry about the higher cost of living parts of the U.S. I start with the lowest. Do you know what the bare minimum necessary to survive in the U.S. is? You cannot survive on less without cheat codes, assistance, welfare, and niche, cherry picking. Just straight up on your income. No cherry picking, no welfare. No, it's not life. That's the most asinine statement you could possibly make. Okay? A fucking lightning bolt hitting you, that's life. An asteroid taking you out, that's life. A drunk driver T-boning you and ending your existence, that's life. This isn't life. This is intentional. This is orchestrated, constructed. This is done on purpose. That's not life. If you made minimum wage $1 an hour, you would have people flocking to that job for $1 an hour. Why? Because in this country, in this world actually, for the most part, and this is actually not a bad part of our world, it's a necessary part of our world. You work or you die. Now, $1 an hour is not going to keep you from dying, but it will delay you from dying. And you have a very, very strong instinct for survival. You'll do anything to delay death one more day. I'm not a leftist. I'm a constitutionalist. You can't live on $20K a year. Not in the US. Not without cheat codes. I have massive cheat codes. I get state health care and I own my home outright, so I don't have to pay rent. I also was fortunate enough to be able to move to a part of the country that has a very low both cost and environmental cost of living. A lot of people ignore environmental cost of living, but that's actually a very big deal. There's no water to rot my home. There's no rust to rot my cars. The dry air means it costs me almost nothing to air condition this house. So that's a low environmental cost of living. It's one of the reasons I chose to live here. But those are all cheat codes. Those are all things that I took advantage of wealth that I had at one point in time to set myself up for later to give myself an advantage. But if you're, 21 years old out of college or out of high school and you have to survive on your own, you don't get none of that. The minimum necessary for a person to survive. Well, I haven't built myself back up yet, but I have I've gotten to a point where I have a chance at least. Because 3 years ago I had no chance. Now at least I have a shot. No, you can't, red light. I can because I have a drive, I have resources, I have things that can help me. I have a better chance than a lot of other people. But anybody can make it only applies on a onesie outlook. So let me enlighten you to the reality of the world. There's 160 million working Americans. 160 million working Americans. Now, you explain to me how the 80 million people at the bottom can lift themselves to a better standing in any way without eating the other 80 million people and taking their jobs. Because there is no other 80 million jobs available. They don't exist. The other 80 million working Americans have those jobs. So the only way you're getting one of those jobs is if, now individually, there's lots of movement, okay? But when you start looking at groups of people, you realize this group of people is stuck. They can move within their group, but the only time they can move out of their group into this other group is if they can either create their own niche, start their own self-employment, and before you say, well, that's what everybody should do, Chris, yeah, there's 35,000 corporations in the country. There's 160 million working people. Hello? This is reality speaking. Reality knocking at the door trying to get into that brain of yours. It doesn't work. As a nation, as an entire nation, it doesn't work. It can't work. The system is flawed from its core. Can one person change their position? Yes, because there's constantly people failing. And if you're smart and you're opportunistic and you have the drive and the will to work hard, and also, here's the key part, the opportunity. You see, the problem is there's limited opportunity. But opportunity alone is not enough. You have to be willing to work hard and grab a hold of that bull by its horns when it presents itself to you. However, you could have all the drive in the world. Well, no, that's not true. No, Fat McD's does not pay $15 an hour. McDonald's pays $9 an hour. National average wage for McDonald's is $9 an hour. Good luck finding one willing to give you 15. Even the few that have the signs up saying, pay, you read the fine print, up to $15 an hour. And when you actually go to apply, yeah, we're starting you at 8. What about the sign? Yeah, well, that job's gone. We're starting you at 8. You're being fed bullshit and you don't even know it. Great! Let's move 80 million people to wherever you are, red light. Do you got 80 million affordable homes that people can afford to pay for on $15 an hour? Are there 80 million apartments where you are that are cheap enough for $15 an hour to pay for? We can start busing 80 million people to wherever the hell you are. It's not how it works. Oh, yeah, I know someone who works there. Great anecdotal evidence. That really helps the other 80 million people. What a help for the other 80 million people. You know one guy who works there. I'm not trying to attack you. But what you're saying is the same regurgitated Kool-Aid bullshit that a lot of people regurgitate all over the place. Because solving it for everybody solves it for me too. Because guess what happens when everybody else is doing better? Well, they can afford to be a Patreon. They can afford to buy more stuff, which I earn commissions from. One of the reasons so much of Amazon dropped is that people are spending less. Because more and more of their money has to go to healthcare and housing. Oh, I know. I'm working on me. But, you still have those other 80 million people. And you have those corporations who are now forcing us into a recession, which will affect me. I mean, you say you can only control ourselves. Well, those corporations seem to be doing a pretty good job of fucking things up for everybody else. Okay, again, you're spewing Republican sewage. You got Democrat sewage and you got Republican sewage. You're currently spewing Republican sewage. 89% of people who receive SNAP benefits are employed. They work. Corruption, grift, and abuse in the welfare system is virtually non-existent. They're not lazy. They're fucking working. Did you not hear what I just said? Let me say it again until you understand it. 89% of SNAP recipients are employed. They work. They're working their asses off. Now, the right question, the correct question, red light, should be, go look it up. The very people who have a vested interest in that number being low so they can propagandize it are telling you 89% of SNAP recipients work. The 11% are the people who are crippled, who can't work. 89% of SNAP recipients work. Yeah, but I can't fix Africa. I don't live there. I live here. I got to try to fix here. I got to fix my own home first before I can fix yours. I mean, I understand it's a problem. It is. The amount of political corruption in Africa is out. It's insane. But I can't fix that. There's literally nothing I can do about that. I can do something about here. Yeah, get all the politicians into one place and then we nuke it. And then any upstarts who decide to replace those politicians doing the same thing, again, we nuke them. until people realize that, well, if I'm a corrupt, low-life piece of shit, I'm getting nuked, so maybe I shouldn't do that. um, but you know, now, Sean, this is not an attack on you, but the statement of you guys nothing to complain about because so and so has it worse is a bullshit statement. It's literally deflection and projection, because there's always somebody who's got it worse. Always. There's always somebody who has it worse. I'm talking about the United States, the richest, wealthiest, most powerful country in the history of planet Earth, and 65% of its population is under the poverty line. If that doesn't scream, something's wrong. I don't know what will. I mean, do I have to put a neon sign above it? I mean, something's wrong. I can't ask you Africans to fix our American problem. Us Americans have to fix it. All right? Just like I can't fix your African problem. You Africans have to fix that. Although part of your guys' problem is outside influence. World Bank, US, China coming in, trying to steal all your resources, and your warlords there letting them because it enriches them personally. That's, the only part of your problem that I could fix would be to try to, I can't fix it, but I could try. The only part I can try to fix politically is to stop us abusing the African economy, because we're making your problem worse. But 65%, approximately, it's between 60 and 65%. I don't know where the number actually is, but approximately 65% of the U.S. population is under the poverty line. 65% of the U.S. population cannot pay for the most basic of life needs without some form of cheat code assistance or welfare. If you have to take any action to adjust your living status to compensate for an inadequate income, you are below the poverty line by definition. Poverty is defined as the inability to pay for your basic average life needs on your income. So if you don't have health care, that's a cheat code. If you're living with a roommate, that's a cheat code. If you get married for the benefits, that's a cheat code. If you move 2,100 miles across the country to a cheaper place in the country, that's a cheat code. If you buy a $47,000 house with a business you sold in order to not have to pay rent, that's a cheat code. The vast bulk of the population does not have access to those cheat codes. I was fortunate. I took advantage of the resources I had access to better myself. So I think I did a good job. Not everybody, even people who have that kind of drive and that determination to do what they have to do, you still have to present them with opportunity. Okay, so the way I tell people is that willpower and willingness to work is not enough. You also need opportunity, and you need the willpower, the drive, the willingness to work hard, and the intellect to recognize the opportunity and grab it when it comes by. Now, in that situation, people can better themselves, just like I did, as best I could. My opportunity was minor, but I took it and I ran with it. If I had stayed in Pennsylvania, think about this. My mortgage was $2,000 a month on a house that was almost paid off. $2,000 a month for my mortgage, $8,500 a year for taxes, $400 a month for an electric bill, and the $200 or roughly $185,000 in debt that I was forced to inherit from my dead father, that I was now paying the payments on every month. All right. And I left Pennsylvania 6 months before COVID. Oh my God. Can't even imagine how fucked I would have been if I was still in Pennsylvania when COVID started. We wouldn't be here right now. We wouldn't be having this conversation. There'd be no YouTube channel. There'd be nothing. I'd be on the street. Because there's no way in hell I could have made enough money, because they would have shut down my business. They did. The new owners, they got shut down because, of course, the Egg Harbor City government took advantage of that real quick to shut down the adult bookstore during the pandemic. So the adult bookstore would have been shut down, which means 90% of my income would have been gone. The YouTube channel would have tanked. And the only job I would have had that might have still made me any money at all would be the pizza job. But that would have gotten worse and worse as the electric car got worse and worse. With the car only being able to go 40 miles right now, doing a pizza job, I'd be using a gas car, and now all the advantage would be gone, and I'd be doing what all the other drivers do, putting all their money into repairing the car. I'd be fucked. If I was still in Pennsylvania, I'd be screwed. I mean, I'm talking screwed on another level of screwed. There'd be no recovering from that. The pure coincidence of when I got out of Pennsylvania, I think about that every couple of nights, how lucky I was. And that wasn't opportunity, that wasn't will, that wasn't drive, that was pure fucking luck. That was just pure dumb luck. Jesus. Yeah, just luck. Pure luck. 6 months. That's all it would have taken. 6 months later, and it would have been all over. Nobody would have bought the business, because who's going to buy a business they can't even open? Nobody would have bought that business. Oh my God. It would have been. And then you have, who I would like to consider a friend of mine, Red Light, just sucking down all this Republican bullshit propaganda that he should know better. He should know it's bullshit. We are an integrated society. The decisions of the people in charge have vastly encompassing impacts on millions and millions of lives. You are not in control of your own life. You have a limited amount of control of your own life. You can nudge the rudder. So yes, you can control direction, but you can't control destination. You can basically control how you get there. And only by a little bit. There's only so much that you can nudge that rudder for most people. I was lucky. I was able to nudge my rudder a little bit more than what most people could do. I got lucky finding an affordable house that I was able to actually, make livable, because I had no running water or electricity when I got here. Now keep in mind, in all this crap that I'm discussing, well, the adult store is pretty much immune to internet. First of all, it's a lot of older people who don't want to putz with the internet, and it's a lot of people who don't want to expose themselves on the internet. The internet's risky. When you're watching the kind of shit these people watch, the internet is potentially risky. If somebody finds out your browser history or something like that, you see memes all the time. When I die, delete my browser history. They're more serious than you think. There's a lot of people who would really appreciate you deleting their browser history. So an adult bookstore properly run is difficult to run out of business. I mean, they're pretty. It's one of the few businesses that are largely recession proof. My problem with my adult bookstore was my lack of funds. Red light. I don't care how hard you worked. You had an opportunity that allowed you to get ahead. You most likely had rather significant cheat codes and advantages that allowed you to get ahead. That cannot be duplicated for 80 million other people. That's the part that you refuse to understand. people like you can drive me crazy because I just want to whack you on the head a few times and go, why can't you pay attention? You're smart enough to get ahead and get where you are. Why can't you see reality? Duplicate whatever it is that you did. Now multiply it by 80 million and you'll see that's not possible. Whatever opportunity, whatever advantage you were able to, because of your willpower and your drive, and you're working hard to take advantage of. Because it doesn't matter how hard you work. How hard you work doesn't matter. You have to combine working hard with opportunity and the ability to recognize those two and be able to take advantage of it. You remove any one of those, and how hard you work doesn't matter. Tell the guy paying $1,800 a month in rent, making $8 an hour at 2.5 jobs, to work harder. He's already working 3 times harder than you are. Whatever you're doing, he's working 3 times harder. At a shittier job for shittier pay with no benefits and no escape. You can't duplicate whatever it is that allowed you to get where you are 80 million times. You can't do it. I'm trying to get a part-time job right now. No one's hiring. No one within 35 miles is hiring. Oh, they got hiring signs up. Come work for us. Start a career here. But then when you actually apply, nothing. Chirp, 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 chirp. It's all a show. It's a facade. None of them are actually hiring because they're all expecting the economy to go in the next 6 months. And they don't want to burden themselves with more labor. Some people don't have a choice. The average median rent in the country is $1,200 a month. Well, you know, I love when I do something like this. This is hilarious. No, you can't buy a house payment for less than $1,800 because they won't give you the fucking loan. Sure, you make enough money to pay for that house payment, but someone has to actually give you the loan, and they won't. Well, so you have a massive cheat code. You have a stupendous cheat code where your work is willing to help you like that. Okay, well, let's see you get the McDonald's employer to give a loan to one of their employees to buy a house. Hey, McDonald's, you gonna help out your employees to buy a house? Yeah, that's gonna happen. McDonald's has cut their pay to their employees by almost 50% in the last 45 years. Yeah, they're gonna help their employees. Now, you see, my brother is in that situation right now. He has an employer who's willing to help him with things like that. Helped him buy a car. They're helping him to get a house. They're trying to find a house to buy in the area and they're looking for a duplex, and they want to put him up in one half of it and then get a renter for the other half of it to pay for the whole house. Because, yeah, they're going to gouge the fuck out of that renter to pay for that whole house. Yeah, you did. Whoopee for you. Good for you. Yay. Yeah, you're going to go from this $8 an hour job to that $8 an hour job or that $8 an hour job. Do you know why? Do you know why all of these bullshit business assholes had signs up saying America is lazy and doesn't want to work? Nobody wants to work, even though unemployment was 6%, 3%. Okay? Unemployment was basically non-existent, but somehow nobody wants to work. Hey, asshole, everybody is working. They're just not working for you and your fucking slave wages. But they can't admit that we're paying slavery wages, so they say America's lazy. It's such bullshit. It's disgusting. I mean, how can someone intelligent look at that and not see it for the bullshit that it is? I mean, get a better job. Sure, I'll go from $8.10 an hour to $8.15 an hour. Yay, I'm a winner. If they went from $8 to $16, it wouldn't be enough. Oh my God. I love when I see stuff like this. Let's go here. Property rentals. So here, $765. Yeah, that's not an apartment. That's a room in someone's house. You're renting a room in someone's house for $800 a month. Here's your typical $1,600. Oh, out in the middle of nowhere where I am, you can rent a house, 4-bed, 2-bath, nice house actually, $2,200 a month. Here's another room in someone's house, $550 a month. Yup. Or 40 miles further. A room in someone's house. Here's an apartment, which is really just another word for a room in someone's house that they converted into an apartment. Private room for rent. You have this little cart to put your hot pot on to cook with. $900. And this is in the middle of New Mexico. I can only imagine what it would be in some place like, Philadelphia or San Diego or Houston. Now people say, well, I'm paying $600 a month in the middle of bumfuck Idaho. Yeah, how many jobs are there in bumfuck Idaho? Yeah, so somehow they're going to come up with the tens of thousands of dollars it costs to move to Idaho just to find out there's no fucking work. You know where the jobs are? Do you know where the jobs are? Wherever the rent is highest. That's where the jobs are, because that's why the rent's higher. Oh, by the way, there's 176 available. Yeah, there's 176 available. In a geographic area that has 800,000 people, there's 176 available. But hey, just go get a better job, right? Sure, just go get a better job. Oh my God. But he's not making enough money to pay the 600. Because his job's paying him 8. So he gets evicted because he can't pay the 600. Oh my God. The reason that room is so cheap is because there's no work. So they have to keep lowering the price to try to get somebody to pay it, because the person who owns the house is on the verge of losing their house because they're not making enough money. So they're going to desperately try to rent out a part of their house, hoping they can make enough money to keep their house. And your reply is, yeah, but he's only paying $600 a month. Talk about... Again, I respect you. I consider you to be an intelligent person, but you're just sucking down the Kool-Aid, man. I don't know. I don't know how to explain that. I mean, it's like a significant chunk of our population has put up an actual force field, a reality distortion field around them, and they somehow can't see the reality around them. Now, keep in mind, all this stuff I'm complaining about doesn't apply to me because I'm an exception. I own my home. I only have to pay $50 a month in rent to Santa Fe for property taxes. Winter's over, so my electric bill is going to plummet. I mean, I got to pay $413 this month to my electric bill, but next month my electric bill should be $100. Again, you say mentally retarded things like, we can't help it that some people want to be lazy. That's mental retardation. Your brain, and I'm not saying that as a derogatory mentally retarded. I'm saying that as a medical, political mentally retarded. You're saying something that is the antithesis of logic and reason. Unemployment is nearly fucking zero. They're all working. So what the fuck do you mean some people want to be lazy? That doesn't even make sense. That's like looking at the guy working his ass off and saying, well, he's just lazy. Are you stupid or something? Is there something wrong with your brain? Or is the reality distortion field being projected around you by the Republicans just not enough for you to see through? You can't see through that. Again, the only reason I'm putting this effort into this discussion is because I like you. I consider you I can't consider you a friend. I never met you. I consider you an acquaintance. Call it an internet friend. You know, I don't think you're an idiot. I don't think you're a dummy. I think you're just slurping down propaganda and don't realize it. What's the current unemployment rate? Even with all this bullshit going on. First time in the last 2 years? Holy crap. Current. As of April 7th, 2023, the unemployment rate is 3.5%. It's zero. 3.5% is stoic. You're never going to get below 3%. We've met, or maybe at one of the conventions we might have met. I finished the Pringles rocket files. So these are available on my Digistore. So if you want to make a Pringles rocket, these are supposed to be half this tall. You cut one of these in half and use that as 2 fins. But I haven't cut this in half yet. But that's finished. I have the next model coming up, which is going to be one with regular fins on it. So I have this version, which is going to have regular fins that get glued on. Actually, that's pretty strong. I was worried about how rigid that was going to be, but that's pretty good. And again, this is a simple glue together design. This will be the next one that I release on the Digistore. And then after some refinement, I still have some finishing work to do. I'll be releasing the advanced version, which has interchangeable parts so that you can actually thread these parts together. So if you like, see how this tube is kinked a little bit? Well, I could just replace that tube and then just replace it with a different tube. There you go. And that one will also come with interchangeable parts, interchangeable motor mounts, finishing rings. No, they won't have rocket motors. It's an STL file. You download it, and then you add rocket motors to it. But that'll be the advanced model that'll eventually get released once I'm finished testing it, make sure it works right. I finally figured out an easy way to install this at the exact right height. I know I don't know you, but I'm trying to help you. But you would rather live in the delusion than see reality. And I don't understand why. That's what I don't get. Most people do things because of a benefit. This benefits them, this hurts them. So they lean toward this because it benefits them. What I'm trying to figure out is, how does you believing the absolute malicious lie that people are suffering because they're lazy and not because the overlords that run the slave industry are enslaving them, how does it benefit you to believe that? And how would it hurt you to believe that? Your job is not going to get better or worse. But he is an intelligent person. See, that's no, see, no, no, see, red light. I can also see Chris Gerarts. Is that how you say it? Gerarts? Chris Gerarts, I can see where he's coming from. When you realize the reality around you, you start to see people who don't realize it as unintelligent, because how could you not realize it? It's so obvious. It's such a simple problem. How could they not see it? But I have direct experience with this. I'm not going to drop names because I just don't do that. But I have a vendor, a Rocketry vendor, who he's self-employed. He runs a successful business. He owns all of his own stuff. He's successful. He makes a hell of a lot more money than I do. He has employees. He pays employees. Okay, and the reality distortion field exists. He's an engineer. He's designed if I remember right. No, he was never a rocket engineer, but he was an actual engineer by trade. No, but the only way to fix that, John, is to educate people. And when people won't see it, when you get people like Red Light, who I know is a reasonably intelligent person, I know he's not an idiot. Okay, because that's the case. This person is probably as smart as I am. He's definitely much better off than I am, so he's done better with his intelligence than I have. This is a person that I would, wow, that sounded like a big thump. A person I would definitely never attribute the concepts of idiot or moron to. Okay, he's not a dumb person. And when I discuss these things with him, he agrees with me 100%. Yes, I agree with that. Yes, I agree with that. Yes, you're right. Yes, you're right. And then when I say the exact same thing, 2 plus 2 equals 4, but I add the word labor to the sentence, he disagrees completely. All his logic turns off. All of his engineering knowledge turns off. All of his reasoning and intelligence gets disengaged. He becomes a dunce on the spot with that one subject only. Even though everything out of his mouth is anti-logical and nonsensical, the moment you apply the word labor to this discussion, all logic leaves his brain, because he's brainwashed politically. I mean, hey, how many people think this is end-stage capitalism? You go out to any group of people and say, hey, is this end-stage capitalism? Probably 90% of the people are going to put their hands there and go, yep. And yet this is not capitalism. The United States murdered capitalism in the 70s. We haven't used capitalism in over 45 years. I mean, this is not capitalism. This is feudalism. Go look up the word feudalism. Now, feudalism is specifically a medieval term. It's describing a medieval type of system. Now, if you take the terms, the medieval terms in the definition of feudalism, and you simply replace them with modern societal counterparts, okay? So feudal lords becomes CEOs, okay? Serfdom becomes minimum wage jobs, okay? And that's living off the land, being serf to the lords, because you can't survive without their minimum wage jobs. You can't get ahead. If you replace those concepts with modern concepts, you realize the economic and social system that we have in place today is feudalism. Why do the wealthy want feudalism? Because unlike capitalism, which does not permit hoarding of wealth and power, capitalism does not permit the hoarding of wealth. That's something that you tell to a leftist person and their brain explodes. Because see, I'm a capitalist. I believe in capitalism. I think that's the way we should be operating. But I'm not a Republican. Because they're wackos. They're buckaroo banzai across the eighth dimension at plaid speed. Okay? But you tell a leftist that you're a capitalist and their brain explodes. Because they think this is capitalism. They have as much of a reality distortion field up around their brain as red light does. Because they think this feudalism is capitalism. Capitalism does not permit the hoarding of wealth. You can't hoard wealth in a capitalist society. Capitalism evenly distributes wealth. If I get rich selling 3D printed Pringles can rockets, well, guess what, Chris might be doing tomorrow, or guess what Red Light might be doing next week. They might have a line of Pringles 3D printed rockets because, hey, he's getting rich off of it. I want some of that shit too. Now, there's market forces, supply and demand, things will balance out, but ultimately, as many people as the market will support making 3D printed Pringles rockets will do so. If I start selling dog shit in a paper bag and my neighbor sees me making bank doing it, guess what my neighbor's going to do next week? He's going to open up a line of dog shit in a paper bag. That's capitalism. People say, well, when the capitalists begin to limit the market and keep out competition, it's no longer capitalism. It's not capitalism anymore. Once you start having monopolies, once you start having the ability for people to control the market, it's no longer capitalism. Because now the state owns the means of production. Capitalism is where the people own the means of production. Well, you wouldn't. If I'm making bank, 3D printed rockets, I'm not going to waste my time printing this. I'm going to hire somebody to manage the machines. That's capitalism. Capitalism adds jobs. I mean, people say, well, what about the game Monopoly? The game Monopoly is not describing capitalism. It's describing monopolies. The game of Monopoly shows what happens when capitalism fails and you switch to feudalism, where the few control the means of production, where the state controls the means of production. That's what Monopoly is showing you. That's the point. You're missing my point. I don't know if you're just joking or if you're being intentionally dense. I don't know. It's hard to tell through text. But the point is, if I get rich doing this, other people are going to start doing it. They say, well, what happens if you patent it? That's not capitalism. That's a monopoly. But if it makes you more money, if you make $1 million a year doing it yourself, but you can pay someone $500,000 a year, but now you're making $2 million a year, well, I'd say you're winning. The point is, in a capitalist system, this is what happens. Other people begin to do what makes money. And of course, there's winners and losers and balances. If Red Light does a better job at making Pringles rockets than I do, he might put me out of business because I'm too inefficient and don't do it well enough. But the point is, that's capitalism. But if you tell a leftist today that we do not live in a capitalist society, their brain will explode. Just like Red Light's brain exploded when I told him that 89% of SNAP recipients fucking work. That Walmart, if they probably still do, but they used to have classes teaching people how to maximize welfare benefits because they pay so little that their employees can't survive without it. I mean, call it Pringles rockets, call it Gorilla Glue, call it, making a metal part for the razors so they don't break. Call it making flashlights, whatever. This is just a stand-in for the concept. And to bring it back to 3D printing a little bit, because it's all 3D printed. Oh, by the way, I came up with a new rocket design. It's all 3D printed because of this. This is not glued together so that I can show people how this works, how these parts all fit together. And so none of this is glued together, so I can demonstrate this. And then I accidentally did this. And I was like, can I do that on purpose? Like, can I make this actually do that while the rocket's flying? Yes, I think I can. Walmart does not pay $30 an hour at warehouse jobs. No, they do not. They might pay management $30 an hour, but Walmart does not pay $30 an hour at warehouse jobs. So no, they don't pay pretty good. Well, here's the cool part. Well, first of all, you can't just have one spin because all motion is relative. Time is relative, motion is relative. You're coming toward the train, or is the train coming toward you? Technically, it's both. Motion is relative. So if one of these is spinning, there's no difference between this spinning and the whole rocket spinning. Yep. No, they don't. No, they don't. Send me a link to a legitimate source. Not some bullshit. I'm full of shit. You just told me they pay warehouse workers $30 an hour. Talk about who's full of shit. You just told me Walmart, one of the most egregious wage theft corporations on earth, pays $30 an hour. No, they don't. They might pay a select number of positions $30 an hour. But the base wage for a warehouse worker is not $30 an hour. No. Sorry. Don't believe it. That's what's called an extraordinary claim, which requires extraordinary proof. So, the idea I came up with, no, they don't. No, the warehouse jobs do not. Right there. $19 an hour. With the low being $7.25, the average being 19. The high is 40.05. That would likely either be union or limited skill. So people who can operate heavy equipment, management positions, but your average is 19 and your low is 725. And look at where the average is. So they pay better than like a store pays. But yeah, it's 19. So no, they do not pay $30 an hour. They might pay a certain select number of positions $30 an hour, Like the shift manager might get $30 an hour, you know, or something like that. But or the heavy machine operator, he might get $30 an hour. Yep. Look how low the average is. I don't care. Oh, after 10 years, he makes 30. The truth shall set you free. You've just exposed your own bullshit for the bullshit it is. And yet you don't say it. Whoosh. Again, I'm not trying to be derogatory, but it's from the perspective of someone who can see reality. This is hilarious and sad at the same time. Oh, now it's some jobs do there. Keep backpedaling, man. Come on, you'll be on my side fast enough. Keep backpedaling. Keep moving that goalpost. The low is 725. The average is 19. So even the average warehouse job, and let me tell you, I bet you the churn rate at that job is ridiculous. The churn rate has got to be ridiculous for them to even be willing to offer that much money. Let's put the little cube in there just because I think it's cute. Yeah. Do you know what the wages for an Amazon warehouse worker are actually pretty good. You know, I could probably look that up actually. It's probably a lot higher than Walmart. Oh, it's still only 19. Even at Amazon, it's only 19. $19. The base pay is 17. The base pay is 17, and the average is still only 19. That's so bad. Oh my! If you understand mathematics, you know how bad that is. We don't. Okay, there's no such thing really as contracted hours and 0-hour contracts. That doesn't exist. Maybe in your country it exists, but here that doesn't really exist. That's a very rare thing. The United States is a no right to work nation. We have right to work laws that are actually no right to work laws. That's as a foreigner, you're gonna have to get used to. I got to be careful saying that. For some reason, that's a very common colloquial. Oh, you can't believe everything off the net. Where the fuck did you get your $30 an hour from? From some right-wing website somewhere. Oh, that's such a typical thing. I'm right. I find the proof. Oh, that's on the internet. It's fake. Oh my god. See, the problem with people like you is that you will reject. You are not looking for a discussion. You are not looking for reality. You are not looking for truth or facts. You're looking for confirmation of your belief. You have already established, I believe this, and you will now only accept any evidence, regardless of where it comes from, if it validates your belief. Because you won't let go of your belief. That's the mental infarction that I see intelligent people. Someone! I don't give a fuck about someone! Someone is renting a house for $400 a month, too! Ask me if I give a fuck! Tell the other 80 million people looking for an apartment. I know someone who gets a house for $400 a month. They're gonna say, fuck you! I can't, so I don't care. Okay. TK, even though this really pissed off Naomi, this is just a common way we speak here in the US. You need to understand something about how this works. For some reason, that really pissed her off. I don't know why. It doesn't mean anything here, but it just made her mad. I think it's a language barrier thing. I think those words mean something different to her. But anyway, something you need to understand. We call things in the United States the opposite of what they are. So we have the Anti-Patriot Act. We call it the Patriot Act. We have you don't have a right to work laws. We call them right to work laws. So we call things the opposite of what they actually mean here. So you have to understand that. So with that in place, with that understanding in place, the United States as a whole is, I don't know what the exact percentage is. I'm going to call it 99%, and I bet you I'm within 5% of being right. Because the 80 million dictate what everybody else gets. 91% of the country is enslaved. It's a variation on slavery that we delude ourselves into pretending doesn't exist. And that's because even if you make a living wage, you're making less than you should be 99% of the time, because almost all wages are based off minimum wage. So think of it as a scale, and the scale starts at minimum wage. So for example, if I were to double minimum wage from $7.25 to $14.50, I now have to increase the pay of the guy making $14.50, or he's going to quit his difficult job at $14.50 and go get an easier job at $8. Okay, that's now $16. So it's a sliding scale, and that when you change the lowest number on that scale, you shift the entire scale. That's why they are so, even though increasing minimum wage will cost the average employer almost nothing relative to what they make. It'll cost them almost nothing. Dollar Tree could pay every one of their employees $19 an hour by increasing their prices a nickel. Walmart could pay every employee a living wage by adding, what was it? I think it was 4 cents or 5 cents to the ticket price. Now, when I say ticket price, I don't mean your Big Mac becomes a nickel more expensive. I mean your entire receipt becomes a nickel more expensive. So if you got 5 Big Macs on there, you raise the penny of each Big Mac 1 penny. Okay? Target could pay every employee they have, they can make their minimum wage a living wage. This is $24 an hour. They can make it a living wage by increasing their ticket price 2 cents. So if it costs them, now the obvious rebuttal from someone like you might be, well, if it costs them so little, why wouldn't they do it? Because then all the other wages they pay would also have to scale up. Now, if you want to know why this is such a big deal, and it's because people like you, people like TK, people like me, Chris Taylor, cannot comprehend these numbers. These numbers are not easily comprehensible by people like us. They're too big. Try to explain $1 trillion to somebody. You can't. I have 172 IQ. I cannot comprehend $1 trillion. I can give examples of it, but it's meaningless gibberish. It's like saying it's 4 quadrillion light years away. It's a meaningless number. It doesn't mean anything. It's too big. $1 trillion. If I sold dog shit in a box and I made $1 million every single day, not every month, not every year, not every decade, every day I made $1 million, $365 million a year. I was born January 1st, 0 AD, when Christ was born. I'm an immortal vampire. When do I make my first $1 trillion? No taxes, no expenses. I make $1 million every day. When do I make my first trillion? It's been 2023 years since I've been making $1 million a day. When do I make my first trillion? I haven't made it yet. It's another 600 years away. 680 some odd years away. If you made $1 million every single day, it would take you approximately 2,700 years to make $1 trillion. And if you want to see where all the inflation came from, we transferred $1.7 trillion from the general population to the wealthiest 0.1% during the pandemic. We transferred more money from the poorest to the wealthiest during the pandemic than you could make at a job that earned you $1 million a day in 4,000 years. You're right, it'll never happen, which is why the United States is dead. It's toast. The United States is done. It's going to collapse. How it's going to collapse, I don't know. When it's going to collapse, sometime in the next 25 years. Probably sooner. The United States is done. What comes afterwards might still be called the United States, but it's going to be something new. It's going to be some new entity. Because this is not survivable. This system cannot function. $24 is not a lot of money. Your brain, which is ill-equipped to handle this subject matter, just doesn't understand that. Because the dollar amount of the money has nothing to do with anything. You call it $24, you call it $240, you call it $2.4 million. It means nothing. What matters is buying power. How many rolls of filament can you buy with that money? How much plastic can you buy with that money? That's what matters. But your brain can't get outside of the fact that $24 an hour is a lot. It's not. It's not a lot. It's just not. I don't know how else to explain it. $24 an hour is the same thing as being paid 24 cents an hour 100 years ago. 24 cents, 24. Same thing. There's no difference. That's what inflation does. And that's why people don't comprehend it. I have to actually end this by 3 o'clock because my sister has an appointment at 4 o'clock. This was just a pre-Rocky Mountain Murph thing. If you're going to Rocky Mountain Murph, you'll be able to find me. Just look for, where is it at? Oh, the nose cone fell. Just look for a really big one of these sticking 12 feet up in the air. I'll have the tallest 3D print in the entire show. And if anybody dares bring a 3D print taller than me, I can combine those two rockets to make a 24-foot rocket. So I will have the tallest 3D print at Armor. No one's gonna beat that. I'll make that damn thing touch the ceiling if I have to. I can just keep adding more of these segments until it's the tallest thing. No, stuff wasn't cheaper back then. Stuff is actually cheaper today. Stuff is cheaper today. Stuff is cheaper today. In 1959, a pound of ground beef cost $9.50. A gallon of milk cost $10. A pound of coffee was $9.25. Today, a gallon of milk is $2.50. Today, a pound of ground beef is $2.86. Today, a pound of coffee is $2. A car is $2,500 cheaper today than it was 50 years ago. Almost everything you buy is cheaper today. So why does it hurt so much? Because you're being paid less. Stuff isn't more expensive. You're making less money, so you think it's more expensive. See you later, TK. Oh, by the way, I hoped if I have sufficient cell phone signal, I'm going to run a couple of live streams during Murph. You know, I'll walk around with live going so you guys can see what's going on there and stuff like that. And so it'll be on and off throughout the day. I'll turn it on, run it for 5 or 10 minutes, turn it off, do it again later when I find something cool and interesting. I'm gonna run these little short little live streams throughout the day. Um, you'll be able to watch them if you don't catch them live. Of course, you'll be able to, you know, watch them after the fact. But if I get sufficient cell phone signal, I'm gonna run a couple of streams during the RMRRF event, and just for fun. Um, but you know, all you just pick a year. It has to be more than 40 years ago. You know, it has to be more than 50 years ago. You need to be looking at, you know, pre 1980s, because when it comes to this kind of stuff, you got to think of it like geology. You don't worry about what the weather was yesterday compared to what the weather was today. You worry about what the weather in general this year is compared to weather in general 50 years ago. What's UO? What's that? What's UO? So a good year to pick is 1968, because that was the peak of wages in this country. That was when the most people were doing the best in this country. So I use 1968 typically. You know, if you use 1971, you got that huge oil crisis and inflation kicking in. If you use before that, you've got World War II. So 1968 is a good year to use. But start looking up, you know, what things cost back then and what things cost today. Now adjust the numbers for inflation, and you'll see that you're actually paying. Somebody posted. This was back in January. Oh, what's up? Oh yeah, it's obvious now. Um, we're talking about political bullshit. Getting ready for RMRRF. I got all the printers printing out rocket stands. I realized that I have no way of making these models stand up on the table. That's kind of important. And there's not enough room for me to lay them out, so I need them to stand up. So I'm making these rocket stands to stand up the rockets. I even the Pringles rocket fits. Oh, yeah, motor mounts in there, but you know, even the Pringles tube will fit in there. I might have a tiny bit. I don't know. I got a lot of stuff to set up, but if you have a little something you want to set up, I'm bringing this 334 printer with me, because I want to print a giant fin can during the event. I have a battery, so even when they turn off the power at night, my printer will keep going. um, the and then the rest of the table is going to be filled with all my models. But we could probably make some room. Ran out. Yeah, too late. Yeah, table reservations ran out a while ago with so many people trying to go. But I have 8 foot of space, so we can make room for something small. I got Starbond, my favorite glue provider. I buy their glue, but I said, hey, you want to do a little co-op? You know, send me a pop kit or something, you know, a little display to put on the table. I like promoting companies that I like. And I love Starbond adhesive, so they said, yeah, they're going to send me one. It's going to be tight. They're FedExing it right to David's house, so it should be there Thursday, which is good. That means if it shows up late, it'll be there Friday. But I like promoting, you know, companies that make good products, and these guys, they make. I pretty much only use their rubber glue. I call it rubber glue, but a lot of people call it tire glue because it uses to glue tires on RC cars. But this is my favorite CA because it's got rubber inside of it, so it's got shredded up rubber inside the CA. And the problem with CA is like the difference between PLA and PETG. It's incredibly strong, but it's brittle. So if you go on YouTube and do a search for NARM ICBM, you'll see Mark McReynolds' level 1 certification flight attempt, and it failed. What do you call it? Magnificently. He CA glued the motor mount into the rocket, and the problem is black powder propellant is very different from ammonium perchlorate propellant. Black powder is gunpowder, and ammonium perchlorate is what the Space Shuttle solid rocket boosters used, or the SLS, the solid rocket boosters. Those use ammonium perchlorate. We also use ammonium perchlorate for our model rocket motors. And well, black powder is like a soft caressing kiss, it's like ignition, and it just gently caresses you and pushes and pushes and pushes until it hits maximum thrust. While the CA is more like your mistress who thinks you're a little bitch. She just smacked you around a little bit. And that's what happens when an AP motor lights off. It's a shock wave. It's a shock. It's like bang, and the motor lights. And that shock is enough to crack CA. It's like glass. You could push on it all day. You could walk on it. It's fine. But you take a little ball peen hammer to it, it shatters. He made the mistake of using CA glue to glue the motor mount into his level 1 rocket. So when the AP motor lit, it cracked the CA. And so the motor and mount shot straight up through the rocket and came out the top. And so the rocket stayed there. The rocket stayed on the pad. The nose cone just started drifting off to the side and falling back to the ground because it got shoved off. And the rocket went up in the air. I actually caught it at 600 frames a second. So you actually see what looks like an ICBM missile come out of the top of his rocket. And I actually find the motor later in the video, which is very hard to do on an LCD screen. It was not skill, it was luck. Well, there's some skill, but let's call it 10% skill, 90% luck. Because there's a lag on LCD screens at that speed, and it's very hard to track an object. You got to do it by feel, basically. You got to guess where the object's going to be and hope you end up on it. But I ended up caught the motor, and you can actually see the lit motor going in the air with the plume behind it. But in real life, it was like one of those pinwheel firecrackers you light off that spins. In real life, it was... But at 600 frames per second, you can actually see the thing rotating. Because now, of course, it's unstable and it has no stability. Nope, nothing on the store yet. But I don't have that many people looking at it yet, so I expect that to be slow to take off. And of course, I got to add more models. I'm going to make a set of these for fixed motor size, because this is all vase mode. This is all vase mode printed. I'm going to make a set of these for, 13, 18, 29, or 24, 29. My idea is to have one size, or a couple sizes, small, medium, large, but they'll each have threads on them. And then you'll be able to screw in adapters for whatever size motor you have. So it'll come with a 13 millimeter shaft on the middle. And then you can screw in an adapter to make it an 18 millimeter, screw in another adapter to make it a 24, screw in another one to make it a 29, so you can adjust it for whatever size motor you have. Because usually these mounts, you'll make the shaft whatever size motor mount you have, and that's what you'll slide over. But because I can remove the motor mount from my rockets, all I do is just remove the motor mount and then slip that inside. So that's why mine are quite a bit bigger than your mount for your rockets. So I'm going to have those up there. Oh, this will be after MRF, of course. RMRRF. I got a bunch of rockets I want to put up there, but I can't put them up there until I know they work. So until I get more feedback from my beta testers and confirm that the current iteration of the model actually survives an ejection charge and a landing. Well, we know it survives landing. It's already survived that. We know it survives flight. It flew fine. The ejection charge just burst the seam, but I think that was his print settings. So I think we got that fixed. He's going to try it again. Once he tries it again, then I'll be able to release the files. And well, you can already get them. If you go on printables, I have the hammer on there. I put it in one of those contests they had there. Probably won't win, but hey, it was a chance to get a free printer. The rest of them I can't really release until I confirm the models are viable. And so once I confirm they're viable, then I'll start releasing them. So I'm also gonna put this up there, the SD card case I came up with. So I really like the way this came out, and so hopefully that'll begin to gain more popularity. I'll probably set up an account on My Manufactory and Cults as well. Just because what's the use of having a site where I make more profit if I make no profit at all because everybody's over there? So I might as well release it on all three places. So if you wanna make a Pringles rocket, it's $10. Rocket parts are a little bit different than your typical 3D print. I mean, something like this. Ah, I'm making a mess again. I damaged half my rockets because I lost my temper the other day, and I just started throwing them. I got so upset. I just got so angry. I just had to vent it, and so I damaged a bunch of my rockets. They don't like being thrown around, but I just got so tired of the mess. It. So I've started cleaning up. The kidneys aren't hurting as bad anymore. I can actually get up and walk around without being under excruciating pain. So I'm starting to actually clean up the mess. But you know, Kajai sells this for $3.90. But this is a decorative piece. You'll print 1, 2, maybe 3, and that's it. You'll never print them again. Because one, I mean, I'll never print another one of these. Why would I? I have this beautiful version of it. Why would I print another one? So he works on the get a whole bunch of people to buy it, you know, impulse buy type thing. My parts are functional, so I've got to make my money from each sale. Because once you have these parts, you can make as many Pringles rockets as you want. And as a rocketeer, you will. You'll probably print this 10 or 15 times and make 10 or different versions of this rocket. So utility parts sell for more. Because the alternative is buying a kit, which will cost you $25 and you only get one. If you want another one, you've got to buy another $25 kit. While this, you pay $10 once, and now you can kit bash the hell out of it and make as many as you want. So hopefully there's a market for that. It's a limited market. There's not many people out there buying rockets, but it's a skill set I got. So I'm running with it and hoping I can make a little bit of cash. I want to get this up there soon too. The Aquarius. I love the Aquarius. It's available for free too, but you know, do both. I printed the T with the shutter. That came out really nice. I still have to print the plate, but I'm really pleased with how that came out. That came out really nice. This Filament and Vertigo Gray and Rapunzel Silver. And, I got a couple of itty bitty rockets. Where are they at? That I did in the Icelandic blue, which is really nice. I like that color. I never got a chance to reprint the vise. I've started getting the parts to work, so you know it's starting to, you know, I'm getting close to making the parts work. This is a half scale model with the 0.2 millimeter nozzle, and the tolerances were just too tight. Also, this is printed vertically, so these tend to break. So I'm going to redesign the model so I could print the threaded part horizontally and then screw it in. This way it's also serviceable. You don't have to reprint the whole thing if something goes wrong. So I'm gonna remix this to I gotta check to make sure I'm allowed to. I might have to start from scratch. I might not be allowed to remix it. I gotta see I'm pretty sure you are. I think I saw remixes. Some authors don't allow their parts to remix. That's how you got the tie. The tie I found said no remixes. I was like, okay, well, fuck you. I'm going to design my own. Alien Destination. So, Gorilla Glue works good for putting these rockets together because of the way the cans are designed. Sometimes there's a loose fit. Like this feels like a tight fit, but in reality, it's only being held right there where the crimp is. If you put it in the other end, it's actually a loose fit. Actually, yeah, see, it's a much looser fit without that crimp. And going pretty good, man. So the Gorilla Glue is really nice because the Gorilla Glue expands. It like foams up a little bit, so it'll fill in the space between the two parts, and it holds really tight. The problem is it takes hours to set. It said 1 to 2 hours, but it's taken me on average 4 hours before it finally sets enough that the part stays put. So that's kind of annoying. And then the other problem was that I had to. It ended up being surprisingly easy to do. But the advanced Pringles rocket, you can actually remove the ends and but I wanted them to mesh so that when you screw them together, they actually butt up against each other with no gap there. And I found out the way to do that is that this is 2 pieces. You have the female end cap and you have the male end cap. Well, of course, the male screws into the female. So what I do is I actually screw those 2 parts together and then I drop it in here. And then this part here places this part in exactly the right position, and then you can just sit it there and let it dry. And then once it dries, you unscrew it and glue it into the other end. And now you have your complete body tube segment. New printers, no. But sometime in the next week or so, I should be getting the Magician X2. They're just waiting for it to hit the Amazon warehouse, and then they said they're going to send me out one. So I should be getting that soon, I hope. I'm trying to get Sliceworks to send me a printer because I really, really like that printer. You know me, my Ender 2, so that Kingroon KP3S1 Pro really tickles me. So I'm hoping to get them to send me one. Put in a word for me, Lightspeed. Bamboo said no. Anchormate said no. Cheaty Tech weirdly said no. It's kind of strange. Creality just ignores me. I don't know why. I didn't do nothing to them. I don't know who I pissed off. But the advanced kit will also come with yep, that's what I'm getting ready for. I'm printing out stands so that I can stand my rockets up at the show. So I'll be able to stand up my rockets and not have them all falling all over the place. I'm actually thinking about bringing a couple of broomsticks with me and zip tying the broomsticks to the printer, sticking out each end, so that I can stand up the big rockets on the table and then tie them to the broomsticks to make them more stable so they don't get knocked over. Because one of them falling, you know, not only would that destroy the rocket, but it would hurt somebody too. You know, if that fell, if that hit you in the head, you're going to feel it. It's a 7-pound rocket, which is pretty light for a 12-foot rocket. So yeah, again, I can't pack anything up until Thursday evening. Well, some things I can pack up. I can pack up the battery, I can pack up the computer, stuff like that, but I can't pack up any of the 3D parts until Thursday night because I can't take the chance of it getting too hot in the car and starting to melt things. So I gotta wait till Thursday to pack them all into the car. Especially because they're all vase mode. So they're prone to warping in the heat. I'm trying to get my neighbors to save their Pringles rockets. Because I want to see how many of these I can put together. I want to make a Mean Machine with Pringles cans. A Mean Machine is a 6-foot long rocket. So I want to make a 6-foot Pringles can rocket. I mean, I've already got 4 feet, right? That's about 4 feet. These look like they're about a foot long. How long are these? 9 inches. So this is 3 feet. So all I need is 4 more Pringles cans, and I can make a 6-foot tall rocket with Pringles cans. I'm going to use my phone if I have a good enough data signal. Like at conventions, it can be hard because everybody else is also using their phones. So we'll see how much signal strength I get. Not signal strength, data throughput. If I get enough data throughput, I'm going to try to run random little live streams. You know, just a little bit, showing off this booth, showing off that booth, walking around the show, stuff like that. Just so you guys have a semi-live experience for those who can't attend. Of course, I'll be recording videos throughout the whole thing and make a proper published video later. And, yeah, it'll be fun. I hope it will be. No whammies, no whammies. My only, I mean, I should have enough for fuel. That shouldn't be a problem. I was able to pay the electric bill, and I should have enough left for fuel. I have enough food, and I have a place to stay. So my only concern now is if the car breaks down, because that would suck. Oh my God, that would suck. So praying the car doesn't break down. I also found out I might be able to fix my minivan. I confirmed that the problem is the alternator. I thought it was the computer, but no. I have now confirmed it's the alternator. I actually went out to the minivan, started it up. I jumped it with a jump box, and as soon as I disconnected the jump box, car turned off like that. So that means the alternator is not producing power. The battery's bad, so you're not going to get no power from the battery. So the car should keep running. And it did, which means the alternator's bad. So I've got to save up the $150, $200 it's going to cost me to get an alternator. That'll take me a couple months. And then I have to find, so I can't install that alternator myself. I can't. Where it's positioned is, I'm just not going to be able to reach. So I got to see if I can find somebody who's willing to barter for the labor to change the alternator. Try to trade, try to barter for the labor. And then I'll be able to get the minivan running, which will make me feel a lot better. Having a long range vehicle as a backup vehicle to the Kia would make me feel a lot better. How come? It's beautiful here. I mean, there's not much in the way of work, unless you have a particular skill set that you could transfer here. But the cost of living is very low. You know, things like beef and fish are expensive. Electricity is crazy expensive, but because the environmental cost of living is so low, your electricity is actually pretty cheap. Just because, you know, you don't need as much heat as you would somewhere else. You don't need as much air conditioning as you would somewhere else. So even though the electricity is like twice as expensive, you're using a third of it, a fourth of it. So your bill is actually lower. Cost of living is just crazy low, and it's gorgeous. It's so beautiful here. No mosquitoes, no gnats. It never gets, you know, sweating, humid, hot. It never gets, you know, it gets frigid cold, but it's not bad. It really isn't that bad. Oh, that's because of where I live. I live very high elevation. If I lived down in Albuquerque, it'd be better. But the cost of living is very low, and the environment is beautiful. The mountains, the desert, it's just absolutely gorgeous. My only real regret besides winter, but that's a money thing. If I made more money, the winter wouldn't be a problem. My only real regret moving to Edgewood is that no sunsets. Yes, that's something I want to do badly. Every night the sky is amazing. The seeing, I live in a Bertle 3 or Bertle 2. My house is like a Bertle 2 or 3. and 20 minutes down the road is Bertle 1. Hell yeah. I love it. I can almost see the Milky Way almost any night. It's incredible. And the number of stars in there is no Walmart warehouse here, and they don't pay $30 an hour. They pay $7.25. Actually, I think they pay $8.75, the current minimum wage here. So $8.75 here. They pay minimum wage. And they work your ass off, because these companies are intentionally creating a recession, because what they're doing is they're destroying jobs on purpose, because they want to push us back into a situation where there are more people than jobs. And when you have more people than jobs, that pushes wages down. When you don't have a proper mandated minimum wage, that pushes wages down. No, they should be $24 an hour. Nobody in the country should be allowed to pay less than $24 an hour. And you know something? A lot of people are going to say to me, but that's going to put small businesses out of business. Good. Because you don't have a right to a business if the only way you can have that business is by having slaves. You don't have a right to a business. And if you can't afford to pay a living wage, then you can't afford employees. Hey, DeWitt! Making rocket stands for my rockets so that I can stand these boogers up, including this monster PETG one on a cold bed. It still managed to warp a corner here. One of these still warped. It warped so hard, it pulled the sticker off the steel plate, and it warped the steel plate. The adhesion didn't let go. It warped the steel plate and ripped the sticker off. Holy shit! The force is strong with this one. But this was a worst case print. This was a giant spindly leg print that's 300 millimeters across. That's like the maximum warp factor. Look, I mean, look how much these warp. They're like bowls. It took a full-size combo infill brim combination at 1.2 millimeters thick, 0.4 layer height in order to rein in that warping. And then it said, oh yeah, fuck you anyway. And it warped the entire plate and peeled the sticker off the plate. I was like, holy crap! It was incredible. But it worked. It printed. I'm trying to experiment with printing PETG with no bed heat because it saves me a lot of money. I will destroy you if you fall. I will destroy you. I don't care how much I like you. I will rip you into a million pieces if you fall. I'm at that point where I don't care. I will destroy you. I've had it with shit falling. So, each of these prints costs me $1 in electricity, about $1.20 in electricity. And almost all of that is from the heat bed. So if I can print these parts without the heat bed, then I save $1 on each one. So yeah. That's a big deal. You know, print 20 of these a month, that's $20 in electricity. These are big parts. This is for the 5-inch rocket. So these are really, really big parts. Each of these takes, 11 hours to print? Because I'm printing with a 0.6 millimeter nozzle, 0.2 layer height. Getting ready for RMRRF, printing stuff, talking, you know, financial, economic bullshit, you know, the usual. But you'll be able to see the spinning rocket. Oh, I never told you guys the finish of that. I want the CRM4. I want Creality to send me one because it's a big printer and it's a high temperature printer. It's like, oh, I want to play with that so bad. I mean, I can't give an opinion on it because you know, it looks like basically a CR10 with a nicer hot end. But I want it. I want it bad, but they're ignoring me. I don't know why. But the idea is, so you can't spin one. If you spin one, then that's really no different than the whole rocket spinning. The M4 doesn't have LiDAR. You're talking about the K1. The K1 is the one with LiDAR. Looks like the Sermon D1, the enclosed one. It's supposed to print fast. So what I did was I made an enclosed mount like this where the loops are closed. And I printed the tubes. So there's 2 tubes about this big each. And the bottom 2 are tilted 3 degrees. And the top 2 are tilted 3 degrees the other way. So that they will counter rotate. So one set of tubes will spin this way. And one set of tubes will spin this way. And then one tube is purple. This purple here. And then one tube is white. So you'll be able to see them spinning in different directions if it works. I made a part with bumps on the bottom. So basically a 3D printed bushing. I'm hoping the friction is low enough that they'll be able to spin. And it's all 3D printed. No bearings, no pins, no hardware, nothing. It's all 3D printed. So I'm really hoping that's going to work. I've decided to call it the cyclotron. Yeah. I can't stick my hand in this. I got big hands. But I can certainly get myself a Mega Man cannon. Because my arm fits inside that one. I'll walk around with Mega Man cannons. Bing, 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 bing. If I run out of ammo, just bash them over the head. Yeah, but they won't send me a printer. I would love to have a bamboo to dick around with. Even if the parts are not structurally usable, which they won't be. If you print this with a bamboo, it'll be fine. If you print this with a bamboo at full speed, it's useless. Because at that speed... Oh, really? You know what I noticed? The sound that the McDonald's oil fryers make when they're finished their cycle, it's the same sound McDonald's was using 45 years ago. It hasn't changed. I noticed that the other day. You know, I heard a ding dang ding dang, whatever that sound is that the fryer makes when it's done the cooking, and it's the same exact sound from 45 years ago. Yeah, you know, theoretically, McDonald's could trademark that sound, because that sound is like the Coke bottle shape. Anybody who sees the Coke bottle shape is going to think Coke. Anybody who hears that chime will instantly think McDonald's. Oh, okay. So a similar sound. Change the sound. Make it something else. Say, hey, dummy, I'm out of alignment. So now I would print this at full speed on the P1P or the X1. Well, not this. This is too big. Hey, 3D for Joe. The advantage of the bamboo is that I can iterate faster. See, right now to print one of these takes me 11 hours. I gotta wait, or 9 to 11 hours depending on the printer. I gotta wait 9 to 11 hours to print one of these to test fit. That's why I end up making little things like this, because these only take an hour and a half. So I have to keep making special parts like this. So if the P1P could print this in 20 minutes, I don't care if it's structurally usable. As long as it's dimensionally accurate, I can now test fit and iterate my designs. This is printed on the WeDo ME40, which is kind of like the CR10S Pro. Exactly. For prototyping, it'd be amazing. And for some parts, you could go faster. Hey, I'm on a live stream. What's up? All right. Okay. Bye. My brother. He's doing well. But when it comes to printing the production part, I need layer adhesion. I need my part to actually hold together. And you print this at 300 millimeters per second, there's no way in hell it's going to hold together when that ejection charge fires at 5,000 feet. It's going to blow itself to pieces. So I need to print slow and hot. Even this printer could print this part twice as fast, but if I go twice as fast, it's not going to stick together as well. So unless they come out with a new plastic that works better at higher speed, I need the slower speed for the adhesion. I need this part to be rock solid steady where it's not going to break when I smash it. If I did that with a bamboo part, this would be pieces. Now, again, like you're printing this, go as fast as you want, because this is not a functional part. It's going to sit on your shelf and look pretty, which is what it's supposed to. That's why I wanted it. It looks pretty. I did that on my stream with they asked me to do a presentation for NARCON. NARCON is the National Association of Rocketry convention for tech convention, and they asked me to do one on 3D printing. And a lot of people were complaining that the 3D printed parts weren't strong enough. So I took one of my tubes and I crushed it live on the stream, and they got a real kick out of that. And let me tell you, it took a hell of a lot of strength to do this. And the part did not break on layer lines. It did not break on the seam. The entire part imploded when I had it like this. I just, and I finally squeezed it hard enough to destroy it. And it just like exploded when it finally gave. I was like, try that with your paper tube. Let me know how it fares. And so that was a good demonstration. You can even see the ribs inside. So you can see there's one of the ribs. And you can see that it's actually fused. It's actually attached to the outside. Oh, it is. It's incredible. See, this is both plastic strength and structural strength. So I've engineered the structure of this model to be strong. All those ribs make this dramatically stronger than the plastic by itself would be. And especially if it's a cylinder, that's going to make it even stronger. So I'm using actual engineering to make this stronger. No, you can't, Lightspeed. You can't. You can to a point. To a point, you can. So, volcano hot end, you can go a little faster. Increase the temperature 10 or 20 degrees. You can go a little faster. But there's a limit. You're going to hit a thermal limit where there's simply a limit to how much heat you can dump into that plastic before you're cooking the plastic off in the hot end. Eventually, too hot is also bad. If you print a 3D printed plastic at too high a temperature, you actually degrade the polymer chains in the plastic. The part becomes brittle. I have some PLA parts that are hard as a rock because I basically annealed the part coming out of the hot end. I mean, I was printing it so hot, it partially annealed. And it's so rock hard, it has no give at all. And the problem is, that's not usable for a rocket. It's too hard. It's going to look great going up, and it's going to shatter into 50 pieces when it hits the ground. Yeah, Lightspeed's been hanging out for a while. You guys just keep missing each other. He's going to be at Armor. Are you going to be there? Are you going, DeWitt? I know you're in Canada. That's pretty far for you, so I don't know if you're going to go to that or not. So eventually you either reach a point where you are not fully melting the I've gotten, even at 60 millimeters per second, I have gotten large extrusion prints to the point where the outside of the filament is being cooked, like it's brittle and flaking off because I'm at too high a temperature, while the inside's not hot enough to fully melt. And oh, well, Bruce is going to be at the RMRRF, isn't he? Oh, you had to pick one, so obviously Calgary makes more sense for you. Um, but yeah, you reach a point where you're too hot. It's in Denver, north of Denver, Colorado, Loveland, Colorado, about an hour north of Denver. Um, so yeah, you can increase the temperature a little bit, but eventually you're going to reach a point. Um, well, it's also the first event, and I think they're a primary sponsor. It's one of the reasons why they had a problem with DPT. I think that's named DPT's name. Hey, if he gives me an XL, I'll promote the shit out of it making rockets. Most Rocketeers, no, I'm an exception. Most Rocketeers have money. So, they'll spend money on a better printer if it makes a difference. It's a small market, but it's a wealthy market. When you're launching a rocket, when you're launching a rocket this big around and the engine costs $500. But that's what I need. I need gigantic. I print big parts. I'm kind of an extremist in that regard. I either print big parts or I print tiny parts. I go to both extremes. I'm either really big or really tiny. I kind of can't make up my mind. Like here's a nanoscale Explorer Aquarius. So I made an Explorer Aquarius for Micromax motors. It's an itty bitty Explorer Aquarius. The full scale, actually, this is slightly larger than full scale. This is 115% scale, approximately. I eyeballed the dimensions. But this is the closer to the normal scale for the Explorer Aquarius. One of my favorite rockets as a kid. I totally scratch designed this from scratch. I even made little caps to fill in the the end of the tubes here. So I print these little caps. There might actually be a market for me selling those caps to people who have this kit and don't want to make those damn caps. I just need somebody to send me one of these tubes so that I can model it correctly. So there's the full scale, well, a little bit larger than full scale, and here's the little tiny, little itty bitty one. It's about the size of the nose cone. It's great. All in vase mode. This is all in vase mode. So this is actually about the same weight as the original, but it's plastic. So the original is 4.2 ounces. This is 4.8 ounces, but it's 15% larger. So it's almost, yeah, it does look like a toenail, does it? This was actually fascinating. Oh no, I just lost a cap. This nose cone was actually fascinating because there's a version of this nose cone on Thingiverse. Mine's on there now too. And it's broken. It's so broken I couldn't edit it. It's just unusable. It's got so many issues with the mesh. So I was like, okay, after about 3 hours of putzing with the file, I finally gave up. I was like, okay, I got to figure out how to make this nose cone myself. Everything else is done. I just need the nose cone. I got to figure out how to make that damn nose cone. Actually, put it up here so you can see it. There we go. Boy, the light is still too bright, huh? So I need to put it in shadow. There we go. It turns out the original guy, I have no idea. LL2GTR. I don't know. Length? Is there a difference in length? The guy who designed this nose cone, I don't even know if he's still alive. I'd love to meet him because there's a little bit of genius in that nose cone. That nose cone is 3 spheres. Literally. He made that nose cone with 3 spheres. He took a ball, stretched it, cut the bottom off, and put a cone on it. He then took another ball, stuck it inside the nose cone, and cut out that space, Boolean subtraction. And then he took a third sphere, stuck it in there, and set it in place. I made that nose cone from scratch. I rebuilt that nose cone from native components in Tinkercad on my own, using the original as a guide in like 12 minutes. Once I knew how it worked, I made it with 4 parts in 12 minutes. Incredible. I couldn't believe what looks, now it's simple. To me, now it's a simple nose cone. But it originally looked like a very complex nose cone. Like, how the hell am I going to model this? And it's 4 objects, 3 spheres and a cone. That's it. The whole thing is made of 3 spheres and a cone. So that whole nose cone is just 3 spheres. You have this sphere stretched out, the bottom is cut off, and a cone is put on the bottom. Then you use another sphere to cut this hole out of the object, and then the third sphere just gets embedded into it. Literally, you can start with 3 77mm spheres and a cone, and you can make this thing. It's incredible. it looks so complex, but in reality, it's so simple. I did take some liberty, so this here is supposed to be straight out, but that's not vase mode printable. So I put it at an angle so I can vase mode print it. And then these little details here, all they are is a cylinder with a sphere on each end. Then you just stick them in there. It's incredible how simple this model actually is. It's just like, never what kind of genius did it take to think of that? I mean, what kind of a brain to what I always thought was one of the most complicated cones Estes makes. Now it's one of the simplest to me. Sphere, 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 cone, done. it's it's incredible. It's really incredible. Some people just have it, you know. Some people just have that knack. They have that ability to be able to think like that. That's real genius to me. You know, people who can think of stuff like that. So. Hey, Michelle! It's 3 o'clock! Let's go! Finally got the car cleaned out so I can start loading stuff up on. I got to put the spare tire in there. I got the air pump in there. I got to put some wrenches in there in case I have to do a repair. And Thursday, I'll start loading up all the plastic. I'm going to take this printer with me because I want to print something. I was going to bring the Q5 because it's small and portable, but I want to bring the ME40 because I want to print something big. So I'm basically going to print one of those big giant fin cans for the 5-inch dash. I'm going to print a big giant fin can because I could print it in 27 hours, which means I can start it when the event starts and it'll finish by midday the next day. So people who attend both days will be able to come by and see this thing throughout its build. I got a nice roll of purple, blue, clear transition PETG, and so I'm going to print it with that. So it'll be a nice transition piece. The only problem I have is that I'm having difficulty getting clean prints with PETG because it's flexible. So the parts do not print clean. Let me find an example. I don't have an example. So anything that is cylindrical shaped prints fine. This is PETG. It prints perfectly fine. But when I try to print, that part is now destroyed. It fell. It's done. But when I try to print a fin like this, that it's curved but it's narrow, the part ends up warping a little bit. So there's a little bit of warpage that's happening as it's printing. And I think the only way I can get rid of it is to add more ribs to decrease the distance between the ribs. So I'm hoping I have a sufficient number of ribs in this particular part to not warp, because I would like to, because I got to start making all my parts out of PETG. I mean, on my personal parts, I print out of PLA because I have 500 kilograms of PLA. So it's free. It costs me nothing. So I want to print PLA. But for anything that I sell or I want to show off to people, it needs to be PETG, because PETG has a, 73-degree working temperature? It's either 73 or 78 degrees. So this part is not going to warp inside my car. This part is not going to warp sitting out in the sun. It might get soft, but it's not going to warp. It's not going to start changing shape because its working temperature is high enough that it's never going to reach that. The only way, ooh, that hurt, kitties. The only way this part would ever get hot enough to warp in the sun is if I print it in black. And anything printed in black is going to get really hot in the sun. But in general, any other color I print, PETG will work just fine. And since all of my parts are in vase mode, the normal printing problems you have with PETG don't apply to me. There's no stringing. Why would there be? It's vase mode. You don't really get stringing in vase mode. At least it's very rare, unless you have warping. So it handles the temperatures I need it to handle, and it's also affordable. You know, the plastic's pretty cheap. You can get PETG for $14 a kilo. In fact, I can sometimes get PETG for cheaper than PLA. So I need to make the parts out of PETG. So I got to figure out the warping issue. The warping is bothering me. My PLA parts, crystal sharp. They look amazing. But I print the cylinders out of PETG, perfect. But the fins, they really are not happy. They're functionally, they'll be fine. Structurally, they're fine. But cosmetically, they look like crap when they warp like that. That's PLA, so that printed perfectly. I'll have to make sure I bring one. Actually, the QCC Explorer, that's even small fins and it's still warped. That'll be one. I'll be able to show it to you. I broke one of the fins, so I got pissed off and threw it. It made me mad, so it got thrown. Um, but yeah, that's one of the problems is the warping, not the warping of the part on the bed, the warping of each individual extrusion if there's too much gap between one end and the other. Even although I haven't done a 0.6 millimeter extrusion yet, with the 0.6 millimeter extrusion might be less prone to warping, or might warp more. So I guess we're gonna find out at Rocky Mountain MRF because I'm gonna print the big giant fin can in PETG. So we'll see. The ideal solution would be a fiber reinforced PETG. The problem is PETG is barely strong enough for my application. So fiber reinforcing would make it weaker. So that's a problem. Cylinders would be okay, but cylinders don't have a warp problem. The fins have a warp problem. So I got to figure that out. I got to see what I can do to fix that. Probably adding some three-dimensionality to the ribs. So having the ribs do one of these would help, but I don't know how to do that yet. I don't know how to, I know how to do this in Tinkercad, but I don't know how to make this a consistent 0.1 millimeter, 0.01 millimeters thick. I don't know how to do that. There's no warping tools in Tinkercad. I can't warp an object. I can only do Boolean edits. Fucking mouse. I can hear the fucking mouse. It's just driving me crazy. So I got to figure that out. Maybe I can make something in like Fusion or Onshape and then export it and then import it into, just make something crazy long so that it'll cover whatever model I'm working on, and then import that as a shape into Tinkercad and then use it for my cutting. They're causing so much damage. Mice are so destructive. They are just so incredibly destructive. But yeah, this is gonna be fun. I can actually, it's weird. This you probably can't see it on camera. No, you can't. I can't. Oh, I can kind of see it. You see that line right there? Where this plastic is a slightly different color than this plastic. Same company, same plastic, same color, but the two rolls are slightly different color. Just bare from a distance, like from here, I can't tell. You know, when I hold it out arm's length, I can't tell. But if I hold it up close, I can actually tell that this plastic is a slightly lighter color than this plastic. That's interesting. I do. I have traps. I have cats. And they're working. You know, the cat catches one every couple days. But as long as they have places to hide where the cats can't get to them, they'll keep procreating. And they can procreate faster than the cats can catch them. It's gotten to the point where the cats are catching babies now. You know, a baby gets exposed and the cat gets it. And I got to clean up more. I've got to start, I got to remove hiding places, and I got to generate cat paths. So I've got to get rid of the hiding places where they can nest, and I've got to create paths for the cats to be able to get to the restricted spaces so that they have no place to hide. Mice are a big problem out in the desert because the outside is a very harsh environment for any kind of mammal, and especially a small mouse. And so they gravitate to our homes. They'll chew straight through your wall to get in your house. And oh my god, that reminds me. I came into my dad's bedroom because I heard a thump. I was like, what the fuck was that? I go into the bedroom and there's a butcher knife sticking out of the wall. I was like, is there an explanation for this? He's like, yeah, fucking squirrels in the wall. The squirrels got in through our eaves on the house, and they were in the walls. We filled the one hole with expanding foam filled with wire mesh, and they chewed straight through it to get their home back. And he got so aggravated that when he heard it through the wall, he got it. It took him 2 strikes. He missed the first time. He got it the second time. There was 2 knife holes in the wall, and he left the knife sticking in the wall. I pulled the knife out. There's blood on the knife. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? I bend over and I just start cutting a hole in the wall. He's like, what the fuck are you doing to my wall? And I was like, you killed a squirrel in the wall. I was like, what do you think your room's going to smell like a couple days from now? He looks at me and goes, oh, I didn't think of that. And I was like, yeah, no shit. And I kept cutting a hole in the wall, and I pull out a dead squirrel inside the wall. Oh my God. It pissed him off so bad. He stabbed the squirrel through the sheetrock. I don't know. I haven't found any open food containers. I've been checking my stock, looking for penetration, and so far they don't seem to be getting into the food. They get into the trash. That's why the cats knocked over the trash can, because there was a mouse inside of it. So I've been taking the trash out more often, so that there's no trash sitting around for them to get to. And right now they're tearing apart stuff for nesting. So they're tearing apart paper and cardboard to make nests. And I find the nest, I destroy it, get rid of it, and they just pick a new spot. So I'm wondering if they're going outside to feed and coming inside to be safe. So I'm not sure. I don't think they're eating anything in the house because I haven't found any signs of damage to food in the house. Anything that's not inside of a glass or metal container, I check it. I pull the shelf out, I look for penetration, see if they're getting into the buckets, see if they're getting into the packages. And so far, they're not. Any packaging that is susceptible to mice damage, I try to keep it cat accessible so the cats can get to it. So if the mice decide to go after the perishable food, that the cats can get to them. And maybe that's why the cats are being successful. The mice make a run for the softer food that's not in metal or glass, and then that's when the cats are able to get them. Yeah, I do need to set one of those up. I'm worried about. I gotta figure out. I might have to just print one. Because or at least print a holder for it, because I need to secure it. I'm afraid the cat will go in the bucket to get the mice, and then he's gonna knock over the bucket, and then I'm gonna have rancid water all over the house. So I gotta make like a base plate for the bucket so I could put the table leg on top of it. So at least if the cat goes in the bucket, he can't knock it over. Because he's very actively goes after them. Null doesn't really give 2 shits, but Ender, he's very active mouser. So he does good. And then I can just 3D print the part. I got buckets, so I just 3D print the parts for the buckets. That's a good idea. If they are lacking in food, they'll be more attracted to a baited trap. That's a good idea. Thank you, Darren. I didn't think of that for some reason. But now that I figured out how to print PETG without a heat bed, just by using a really thick brim, I should have a piece of it here. Here's one. I just use a really thick brim like this. So that's a real thick brim that just sits on the... And that's enough to keep the PETG attached to a cold bed. The first layer... the first layer is a little rough because cold PETG doesn't go down very cleanly. You have to get that first layer offset perfect. Otherwise, it gets a little rough because it's going down on a cold bed. But the trick is brim, about 12 to 15 loops, and 2 layers thick, so a thick brim. And that seems to do the trick. So far, I have had none of these cylinders pop off. Being able to print them cold means I can use a whole lot less power. This goes from being a 300 watt printer to being a 50 watt printer by being able to turn off the heat bed. And my recycle time is also a lot faster too. I don't have to sit here for so long and wait for it to heat up because the nozzle heats up really quick. It's the bed that takes a couple minutes to heat up. Yes, if you use a bed sticker, you know, like the old Creality, the rough bed surface, not PEI, not glass, not PEX. It's got to be a PC type, build tack, fake tack type surface. But yes, well, at least with the larger nozzles. I haven't tried printing a 0.4 millimeter print on PETG cold, but with my 0.6 millimeter nozzle, printing cylindrical shaped objects with a nice thick brim, yes, I'm able to print PETG cold. I got pictures, hang on. Downloads. So I was printing this part. That's the that's this thing right here. Okay. It pulled up a tiny little bit right here, but not enough to fail the part. This is I think it's 12 brim loops plus this is actually part of the model. So I have perimeters, I have infill, and I have a brim, because this is a worst case scenario. This is a really, really warpy part. Anytime you have legs sticking out like this, they really want to warp. They want to warp bad. I mean, look at this. Where is it? This one's good enough. You can see how bad that warps. So with that brim and printed border, it was able to stay. It was able to stay put. The second one actually warped so badly, it pulled the sticker off the steel plate. I'm not kidding. The 3M had 3M adhesive. It pulled the sticker right off the flex plate. Incredible. But this is what it looks like in thermal. So you can see 358 degrees in the hot end there, but the bed is only 30 degrees Celsius. The bed, that's why it's black. The bed's cold. What you're seeing here is the part. What you're seeing here is actually a reflection, a thermal reflection coming off of the part. This is the hot part. The plastic that's still almost molten that just got printed. You can actually see as it cools down. So this is the hottest part, and you can see it gets colder as you go around because this was printed like 20 seconds ago. But you see the bed is, this here is reflection. That's not hot. That's this heat reflecting like a mirror. So infrared radiation reflects off of aluminum like a mirror. So you could actually see reflections in aluminum if you're looking at thermal images. So this is a reflection of this heat coming off of these parts. That's like a mirror. But you can see the bed is cold. So yeah, I'm printing the bed. My tabletop is warmer than the bed is. That's most likely reflected thermal. That's most likely, actually, that's probably the exhaust from the brain box heating up the table underneath the printer. That's probably what that is. Yeah, I bet you, actually, I bet you that is the heat box. That might not even be the table. Stop it. Damn you. That might actually be the brain box and the brain board inside heating up. So you're seeing that get warm for that. But I'm pretty sure that's table, and it looks like that. So you see the bed's cold. So doesn't work as good for things like this, just because the warp factor is so damned high. Mm. Um, Stop it. Do as you're told or die. Rawr. But for things like this, perfect. Low contact patch. The brim keeps that low contact patch from warping. Go ahead, fall. See what I do to you. See what I do to you if you fall. See if I care that I need you. I will tear you into a million pieces. But cylinders like this with a small contact patch print perfectly. No warping whatsoever. It's actually more difficult to remove the PETG part from the bed than the PLA part. But you take the flex bed off and just give it a little flex and it comes right off. And then I end up tearing apart the bottom a little bit as I tear off the brim. It tears up the bottom of the print a little bit. Um, you know what's amazing? I got this little camera for $2 from AliExpress. This little camera. It's not 1080p. They say it's 1080p. It's not. It's 640 by 480. Okay, but it's a cute little camera that has live camera capabilities. Although I haven't figured out how to connect it to my Wi-Fi yet, so you have to connect to it Wi-Fi direct. It's been plugged into this battery box for 3 days now. And the battery box still says 85%. It's been at 85% for 3 days. I'm betting you I could probably run 3 or 4 of those cameras for months off of this battery. It's a big battery. It's a 700 watt hour battery, but I'm amazed that the USB converter circuitry is that efficient. I would have expected some loss just from the conversion. But it still says 0 watts output. It goes to 1 watt when I connect to it. I guess the Wi-Fi gets stronger when I connect to it. It goes to 1 watt. But sitting here just running, it's actually recording. You know, it records a short clip. Although maybe only when there's motion. I'm not sure. But I notice it seems to work like a dash cam. And it's been running for over 3 days plugged into this USB port. And it still says 85% and 0 watts. That's kind of cool. The camera's garbage, but for that low a power consumption, that would make, assuming the camera holds up to any kind of longevity, that would make a great security system for an off-grid scenario where you just need ultra low power. I could plug a little 20-watt solar panel into this battery, and that would be enough to keep this battery fully charged around the clock. Because it takes so little power. Well, you still need a battery. But I'm wondering, at that lower power usage, could I make... The camera actually has a battery built into it. Micro USB. I wish it was USB-C, because USB-C is just nicer. Less chance of damaging it when you plug it in. But I wonder if I can find my drone in time to bring it to RMRRF. I gotta see if I can find it. I don't know where it's at. I know where the controller is, but I don't know where the drone is. I know where the batteries are, and I know where the controller is, but I don't know where the actual drone is. Too bad. That would be fun. um, yeah. But yeah, like a single. Let's see. Let's assume it's taking just under 1. No, see, if it was actually consuming a watt, it would have drawn 75 watt hours out of this battery because it's been more than 72 hours. So that would be 3 days would be 72 watt hours at 1 watt. 72 watt hours would be 10% of this battery's capacity. It still hasn't even shown a 1% drop. So that means it has to be drawing, if 1% is 60 watt hours, that'd be 20 watt hours per day. So it's got to be drawing less than half a watt, less than a third of a watt, like 300 or 400 milliwatts, which means a single, like a 21700 lithium iron phosphate battery should be enough to run that thing for several days. And then you would only need like a 1 or 2 watt solar panel. Basically, you would need more power for the charging circuitry than you would for the device. That's actually incredible. That's actually truly incredible. I wish it was a higher resolution camera. I wish it was actually 1080p. Maybe it is. Maybe in broad daylight it'll record a better quality video. I have to test that because the I could easily 3D print a really nice housing to mount this on a rocket. It's also super lightweight. It's very tiny. Takes an SD card, and also, most important of all, one button initiation. With the device turned off, okay, so the device is now off. All I have to do is press that button. Blue light turned on, it turns on, and it begins recording. One button start. And that's what you need for Rocketry. I got the red light, so I can visually confirm it's recording video. And most cameras, you gotta press and hold the power button, switch it into this mode, press and hold this button, wait for confirmation it's running. Half the time you do it wrong and you don't get the flight because you fucked up the camera. So the best cameras for Rocketry are the one button cameras. Press the button, even if it's off, it turns itself on and automatically begins recording. That's what you need for rockets. You need one button, turn on, automatic start recording. Because now you just have this plugged into your USB, charging up. And then when you're ready to fly, you put it in the rocket, you press the one button, you wait for the red light to start blinking, and then you walk away. And you know it's recording for your flight. So I might make a rocket kit designed around this camera, just because it's so handy for that alone. So even if the video is not that great, it's relatively foolproof. And it's the right shape for a rocket. Although for a proper rocket, I would probably make something like this. A rocket that has multiple tubes so that you could mount this in one of the tubes like that. This way you get that good look down view, except I would have the tubes up here. So there'd be 2 tubes up here, or 3 to keep it symmetrical, however you want. And then you would simply mount the camera into a slot. What the hell is this so backwards for? You just mount the camera into one of the tubes. So the rocket would be purpose built for that particular camera. But yeah, that's what I would want to do. Yeah, see, the USB just turned off because it wasn't. This has just enough power draw to keep the USB from automatically turning off. It keeps turning off. Oh, there we go. First press turn on the screen, second press turn on the USB ports. Yeah, see, it just flickered to 1 watt, then went back to 0. And now the blue light's lit. I think the blue light indicates it's charging, and that's why it momentarily went to 1 watt, charging up. And then, once it's fully charged, it's just running the camera. And the camera just takes so little power. That's going to be very useful. So I got a couple more coming in because they're $1.99 each. If you guys haven't seen this yet, let me show you this again, because this is very, very cool. There's a website called, most of you are probably familiar with it. It's called AliExpress. This does not work on the PC. This only works on the phone. When you first open up the AliExpress app, if it'll ever actually open up, it says loading. When you first open up the AliExpress app, it usually pops up this little thing to announce that, oh, I'm already in there. That's why. how do I go home? There we go. I'm trying to bring it up so you can see it. So when you first open up the AliExpress app, see it says $1.99 per item, shop now. And then that goes away. You can just hit shop now, and it brings you up to a section of the app where everything is, almost everything is $1.99. You have to buy at least 3 items. The maximum is 10, but that's per order. You can place another order. Now in different countries, it's different limitations. I think DeWitt told me they limited it to 3, but you just place multiple orders because the shipping is free. Go boating again. The last time I went boating was 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago. Like right now they have endoscopes, you know, the probing camera endoscopes for $1.99. It can be, but things like this are safe. I mean, how are they going to send you a fake endoscope? You know, it's just not a thing. You know, in one hand, that camera's junk. It's low quality, low resolution, but for $1.99 for my particular needs, it's perfect. Also, you can get cheap SD cards for your printer. Now, here's the trick with the cheap SD cards. These are the only ones that are safe. I've tested them, and Schmooze has tested them as well. If you see SD cards that have, you know, they look like a fake Lexar or something like that, run away. They're fake. They're always fake. They're always fake. I got a couple, and so far they seem to be legit, but you got 50-50 shot of it being fake. But these cards are legit. They're not high-quality cards. They're not high-speed cards, but they're legit. The 32 gig cards are actually 32 gigs. The 64 gig cards are actually 64 gigs. And the reason these are safe is because these are custom. You can pay one of these Chinese companies to make you a custom SD card. You send them a picture and they'll put the picture on the card like you see right there. So these companies paid to have these images put on these cards, which means they're using legitimate cards. They're not the high-speed cards, they're not the high-quality cards, but they're legitimate. They're actual 32 and 64 gig cards. Multiple people, including me, have tested them. So as long as you limit yourself to those decorated cards, you're going to get you're not going to high quality, but you're going to get legitimate cards. So that's why I only buy those decorated ones.
Hi, everyone.
Michelle said hi.
We gotta go.
No, we don't.
What do you mean? I gotta be there at 4 o'clock.
Good for you.
Okay, this.
Now, you can only get one of an item. However, if you wait 24 to 48 hours after you place your order, D-Wet said hi. If you wait 24 to 48 hours after your order is shipped, the queue resets, and if that item is still in there, you can order it again. As you'll notice, I have 2 of the White Dragons, I have 2 of the Soccer Ball, and I have 2 of the Halloween cards. Yeah. Now, you can also get...
Funny, Mike.
Can I talk?
Sorry.
I gotta hurry up. You can also get USB thumb drives cheap. Now, most of the ones I've gotten so far are absolute garbage. They work fine for a few minutes at 32 megabits per second, so USB 1 speeds, and then they drop down to almost 0, then they come back, like they're overheating. They're junk. What they are good for, though, is you know, putting MP3s on them and sticking them in your USB slot in your car. It's a throwaway. I'm going to put her to work today. But every now and then you get a really good deal. Like I bought 10 USB thumb drives for $2.99. What's the catch? They're 64 megabytes. Not gigabytes. 64 megabytes. What the fuck are you going to do with a 64 megabyte card? Since when have you sliced a G-code file that was bigger than 64 megabytes? Most of our G-code files are less than a megabyte. So they are perfect for 3D printers. If you got 3D printers that take full-size USB drives, perfect. You get 10 of them for 60 cents a piece. Hell yeah, I'm going to take that. That's 30 cents a piece. 30 cents a piece. Sure, it's only 64 megabytes, but that's more than enough. You could put 10 or 20 G-code files on there, or resin sliced files on there. You can also get the deburring tools. You can get calipers. I got a whole bunch of these calipers. I got 3 of them so far. These calipers, which work perfectly fine, for $1.99 each. Now, there is one catch. No batteries. So you got to put a battery in there. Now, if you have access to cheap batteries, the the LR44s, AG13s that these take, then you're fine. But if your batteries are expensive, you might actually be better off buying one that comes with batteries. But I have a ton of these batteries. And I can get them at the dollar store. So for $2 each, now I have a bunch of calipers. And now I have a bunch of USB cards that I put in my printers. Because, I got over 100 printers, which means I have over 100 SD cards. And I've burned up over 100 SD cards. Yeah, those cheap SD cards the printers come with, they die eventually. Just one day you stick them in the computer and it says not readable. And it just stops working. So I've started to have a need for SD cards. So I've been getting them from AliExpress. So it only works in the app. And you click on the $1.99 section. You can't order more than one of an item or it charges you the full price plus shipping. But you can get up to 10 items. I have like 170 printers. They're all in cases outside in a Connex container. That's how I'm going to try to build my own printer. I can't run a farm. I can't. Not enough electricity. I only have 100 amp service. And I can only use about 20 amps for the printing because, if I try to run 50 amps on the printers, the whole house shuts down if the fucking water heater turns on or the microwave turns on or something like that, or the electric car starts charging. So I can't run a farm, and generator costs too much. And no room. I only got 1,400 square feet. My bathroom has 11 printers in it. I have a Romeo Juliet full width bathroom. So my bathroom it's layered with 11 printers going across the bathroom. In cabinets underneath have the printers I'm not using. Plus I got 4 printers here, 2 printers here, 3 printers there, and I got printers everywhere. None running though. But I can only run about 6 of them at a time. That's part of why I'm so excited about being able to run these printers without the heat beds. Because if I can run them without the heat beds, I can turn on 20 or 30 printers without overloading a circuit. At 50 watts each, I can run, 10 printers would be 1 kilowatt. So 20 printers would be 2 kilowatt hours. I could run, 16 or 17 printers off 120 amp circuit if I don't have to use the heat bed. So the more important thing is, where do I put all the printers? That's one of the reasons why I was trying to get the Connex container set up as a shop. I can only use it for 6 months, 7 months out of the year, but that's good enough. But yeah, now that I can do these parts without heat beds, I'm starting to think about how do I get more printers running. PLA and PETG. So for certain parts under certain conditions, such as round cylindrical parts like this, you can run PETG without a heat bed, especially with a bigger nozzle. I haven't tried with a 0.4 nozzle yet. It might be limited to the larger nozzles because they have a thicker squish. So this might not, you might not be able to print this with PETG with no heat bed, but you can definitely print this with PETG with no heat bed. The warping force is so incredibly strong. Please stop messing with me. That when I printed this with PETG with no heat bed, it's still warped without releasing from the bed sticker. It actually separated the adhesive from the steel plate. It actually pulled the sticker off the steel plate. I couldn't believe it. I was like, are you kidding me? What might actually help is the enclosure, because then the little bit of heat from the nozzle will get trapped. And just warming it up a little bit makes a big difference. But if I can run this without the heat bed, I can now run 10 or 15 printers. But only for particular parts. You try printing something like this, you have to use a heat bed. Because otherwise your bed adhesion techniques are going to ruin the part. But for my body cylinders and my nose cones, when I start cranking them out, I'll be able to do them in PETG without a heat bed. And that's big. That's a really big deal. Not only does it, forget about the dollar per part it saves me in electricity. It's about $1 that it saves me per part. Not quite that much, maybe 75 cents. Because it's a 20-hour print. So it's about $1 per part, but just the ability to be able to run more printers. I can print this on an Ender 2. This is only, well, not quite. Yeah, this is 117 millimeters, which means it'll fit on an Ender 2 with a brim. I can print this with an Ender 2. And an Ender 2 takes about 45 watts without the heat bed running. Yeah. I have 9 Ender 2s. Well, this is going to be fun. What I really need is I got to try to do it myself. I need a belt printer that's not at 45 degrees. I need a belt printer that's at 90 degrees where the belt moves back and forth to be the y-axis. Because I can't print these parts at 45 degrees. These parts have to be printed vertically. There's no equitable way to print these parts at 45 degrees. So what I need is a 400 millimeter tall belt printer that prints 90 degrees so that I can print a part, move, print another part, move, print another part, hook a 10 kilogram spool up to it and just say, make me 100, please. And just let it crank the parts out. That's what I need to do, but that's down the road. For now, I'll be happy with just being able to print without a heat bed. Yeah.
Chris, what's a minefield?
What happens when you walk into a minefield?
You explode.
But what's the problem? You can't see the mines.
Then why did Mike say
Because the AliExpress can be a minefield.
Minefield.
You don't let me talk.
Sorry.
AliExpress can be risky because you don't know what you're going to get. Like they said this camera is 1080p and it's clearly not. So they lied. But you know something? It works and I paid $2 for it. So depending on what your needs are, you can get some interesting things. So yeah, check out the AliExpress app. I gain nothing from it. There's no way for me to give you an affiliate link. I wish I could. But that is an app-only thing. You can't do it from the website. You have to do it from the app. I log into the website. There's no sign of it anywhere. So I guess they're trying to promote usage of the app. So I think it's kind of like Vine with Amazon, where people put their products into the Vine system. I think this is a case where people can put their products into the $1.99 system. And as a promotional thing that maybe you'll come back and get more. But yeah, you can get cheap micro SD cards. Just make sure they're picture cards like those, where they have a full color silkscreen picture and they're legit. The ones that look like regular cards with words and names on it and stuff like that, walk away. They might be legit, but there's 50-50 shot you're getting a fake card. But those cards are legit. And if they're slow, who gives a shit? You're just putting it in a 3D printer. Who cares? But yeah, all kinds of crap on there. I also found out there's a whole bunch of Smart Life stuff on there. Toyo Smart Life, smart Wi-Fi stuff on there too. I was like, ooh, yes. I just got a smart device that is an IR bridge. So it connects to your Smart Life app on your phone and has IR transmitters, which means I can now use my phone to control my mini splits. I just set this up on the ceiling, aimed at the mini split, and whatever command I can even train it because mine's unusual. It's weird commands, so I can train it with the proper IR codes for my device, and now I can go power on my phone while I'm 1,000 miles away and turn the heat on or off. Yeah, I that was $3.99 I think, or $2.99. It was $2.99 or $3.99. They have a $1.99 category, $2.99, and $3.99 category. And every now and then they sprinkle a couple of $2.99, $3.99 into the $1.99 list. That was worth it. So I paid the $3 for that. So that's on its way to me. I got a couple more of these cameras so I can dick around with them and play with them. And yep, it just finished charging. The blue light went off. And so now it's just running. And it still says 85%, 0 watts. It's going to run forever. It's going to run for months. I'm going to leave it in there until it gets down to 84%. I'm going to leave this plugged in until that thing says 84%. Until it goes down 1%. We're going to see how long that takes. I might restart it. I might charge it up again. Or restart the timer at 84 so that I can actually write down the time and get an accurate measurement. But either which way, it's going to be weeks. Days or weeks to use 1% of the battery. That's cool. All right, that's it. She has a foot doctor appointment we have to get to in 10 minutes, so we got to skedaddle. And don't forget to check out my links. If you sign up for Fetch or Ibotta, I get a bonus. So I'd appreciate if you signed up for Fetch or Ibotta. It costs you nothing. The best one right now is Ibotta. I think it's a $10 bonus. So if you sign up for Ibotta using my link, I get $10. And I think you get a bonus as well. And all you have to do is scan one receipt. You scan one receipt, I get the credit. But I don't get credit until you scan a receipt. Fetch, I think I get $2. Amazon Shopper Panel, I get nothing. But Amazon Shopper Panel has stopped accepting people into the receipt portion. So all you have is the ads portion, which is $2 a month. And the surveys, which is 25 to 50 cents each survey. But it's probably something worth signing up for anyway, just in case they reopen the receipt portion, because that's $10 a month free money. I'm going to the store today. I spent $68 in food, and I'm going to get $40 back in cash. Yes. I take advantage of those bonuses. Oh, yeah. Although they canceled the Starry Soda, they're out. That was buy one, get one. So I was getting Starry Soda for 29 cents a bottle. Hello. That stuff tastes great frozen. Not very good for you. It's just sugar water, but it's delicious in a slushy form. But that's it. I will see you guys next week. I will run a couple of live videos this weekend at Murph, at Rocky Mountain Murph. And if I have enough signal strength. If I don't have enough signal strength, I'll try to upload a couple videos each night when I get back to David's house. But if there's enough data bandwidth, I'll try to run it. And if any of you guys are there, look me up. I will be the booth with the 12-foot tall rockets. I one way or another, I will have the tallest print in the entire show. If somebody comes with a print tall, wow, did you feel that? If somebody shows up with a print taller than 12 feet, I will dismantle the one rocket to make a 20-foot rocket. I will have the tallest print at Murph. So I will see you guys later. You have a great day and keep your victims happy.